there's a ton of peaceful Palestinians, the vast majority, but there's also a lot of Hamas.
This is what Frogan is posting right now on Hasan's Discord. He's literally mask off racist and Islamophobic. Like, she's just trying to make Ethan sound like he's racist. Ethan makes a lot of sense here, to be honest. Desp bomb has been permabanned.
Jewish people themselves say from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. The reason why I brought up Jewish Voice for Peace indicates that this slogan isn't one that is about the evisceration of Jews.
There was Jewish collaborators with Nazis.
Ethan, don't do that, please. Don't say that the Jews' Voice for Peace are akin to capos.
Jewish voices doesn't
not validate it or say that it's not hateful.
A leg to stand on. It's like you're
important
tokenizing a few Israelis.
Yep,
it seems
correct.
Silly. You're like, here, check out my Israeli. He says it.
Yep.
I've already played this. He's going to say
let's
we're
do
going to do
it.
1,000, a million October 7s. The occupation must come to an end. Occupation where? In the Gaza Strip. No, I'm talking about all the Palestinian lands. Does that mean the annihilation of Israel? He says, yes, of course. The existence of Israel is illogical, but there's cuts in there too. I don't even know what, but it doesn't matter. He's saying a bunch of psychotic, bloodthirsty. I agree.
This is one of the head. This is a guy I've seen him before. He's a spokesman for Hamas.
There are multiple different factions within Hamas right now.
Hold on, let me finish it. The existence of Israel is what causes all the pain, blood, and tears. It is Israel, not us.
Do you want me to talk about it? He's going to say 1 million October 7th as well. Or nobody should blame us for the things we do. On October 7th, on October 10th, on October 1 million, everything we do is justified.
It is justified.
Yeah, he even says it in English. He says, it is justified. Agreement on that.
I'm saying this to defend Israel. I'm saying it because I'm just telling you why people are uncomfortable with that phrase, from the river to the sea, because they interpret its use like what this guy is saying, which is that from the river to sea, say that Israel will be destroyed and there'll be no Jews left. Do you care that your chat is calling me racist?
I have no responsibility. I can't do anything about that.
Don't you have moderators? Do you care at all?
The reason why people are saying that is because of the conflations that you made, Ethan. That's what, like, I can't stop people from viewing you a certain way if you're gonna make these comparisons that they've heard from actually racist people.
Oh no. There's no way I'm gonna go back and watch this whole thing. I'm just gonna start
dissolve our state, because that again, you have to. My concern is that people that say they want a one state are basically, in a non-starter conversation. It's unproductive almost. I find it so unlikely to happen.
True.
If young Metro don't trust you, I'm gonna shoot you. Beautiful morning.
So, like. The other issue is like, so
can I cut in here real quick before we move on from that? So there already is a one state. Like, the way I see it, the actual legitimate reason as to why I don't believe in a two-state solution any longer is because there is a one state, right? And that one state is an apartheid state. It's a constant Israeli occupation in the West Bank and constant control over Gaza as well, which has been a demonstrable failure for Israeli security, obviously. You and I agree on that, but...
Wait, do they? Have they? Do you agree that it's been a demonstrable failure for Israeli security?
First and foremost, a moral one, because...
Israel has treaties with Egypt, treaties with Jordan, treaties now with, Saudi Arabia and... what were the other two states for the Abraham Accords?
And participate in a secular democratic process. But the alternative is...
The UAE and Bahrain?
Is it a one state that is an apartheid, or is it a one state that doesn't...
I think Saudi Arabia is on the way.
You're saying it
still
be the state of Israel.
I don't care what it's called.
Not Saudis yet. I thought that Saudi Arabia was still engaged in these talks. Saudi Arabia, peace agreement, Israel.
Human beings that live there.
I guess, it's like this idea that of Israel normalizing relations with all of their neighbors is just like, when can that ever happen? Because if we're going to have a conversation like right
this
now
is saying
about,
puts Israel deal on ice amid war.
Forward to
they might be reconsidering.
That just doesn't seem like. And then here's another aspect, is that if you were to basically remove the all the checkpoints and walls.
Wait, no, this article is old.
Blockades and all that stuff. Do you? And again, I'm not saying it's
like
right or wrong.
I'm
just coming at it from a very pragmatic perspective. Do you think there would be more or less violence against Israelis?
He's not going to answer. He's not going to answer.
He won't think there's more or less violence against Israelis. Is that what you said?
He's not going to answer.
Yes.
Willie,
I mean,
will he actually answer this question? This is the question I had for Dan.
Streaming things, it would be less. Where am I coming from this? Why am I saying this? Well, because there are examples of an apartheid state obviously no longer existing. When we look at South Africa, as a matter of fact.
Why are you using South Africa as a comparison?
On top of that, one thing I want to go back to, you said like Israel's allies or Israel's like regional enemies are they constitute a threat, right? Well, they still currently constitute a threat. A one-state solution just eliminates like one internal faction that is an ever-present danger. And
you're telling me if we were to lift the blockade and the wall around Gaza today, there wouldn't be more violence against Israelis?
I 1000% look to what has happened in the past throughout history in similar formations where there was like a lot of things that we consider to be completely morally unjustifiable. That restoration process often will lead, almost always has historically led to less violence than the violence of the maintenance of this process. Because you're asking like violence against Israelis.
I don't know how useful it is to compare it to like other situations because it does have a lot of unique things. For example, I mean, the government in charge of Gaza, Hamas, is singularly dedicated to destroying Israel and killing Israelis. So how I just don't understand how you can say that removing the wall would result in less violence.
Because Hamas itself is a mere expression and simply one militant faction amongst the sea of Palestinians, 5 million of them living under the occupation, under the apartheid regime.
I know there's a ton of peaceful Palestinians, the vast majority, but there's also a lot of Hamas.
Yeah, no.
If you're an Israeli, and you see someone saying we need a one state, that's the only solution. The Israelis are going to see, okay, we're going to remove our walls, we're going to remove our checkpoints, and it's going to be suicide bombs in our cafes and buses again within the matter of days.
Well, with the walls and checkpoints, October 7th still happened, right? So it's more of a matter of like, of whether the ceasefires have worked successfully, and usually the ceasefire process is, even though it is led by Hamas on the Palestinian front, is still relatively successful. That's one thing. But I do think that comparing this to other historical events is important because, I mean, chattel slavery was truly a continued form of unimaginable, untold amounts of genocidal struggle, where, you know, African people were ripped away from their homes. You know the stories. I don't need to, tell you about that. But then in the Reconstruction process, there was a similar fear that what if black people that were now newly freed would turn around and treat white people in the same way that we had historically treated them. No such thing actually occurred in that process. And as a matter of fact, the real violence that came after that was conducted by the KKK. A desperate attempt to restore the racial hierarchy, the racial pecking order in the South was established by the militant factions.
I know there were isolated incidents of, slave revolts where they kind of took over the plantation and killed the master and stuff. But
I mean, like Nat Turner.
Has there ever been a organized group of black terrorists that were, launching
that were also supported internationally by every other?
I mean, civilian, I guess, whatever. Yes. But I mean, not okay. Who? When?
Well, I just gave you one example, but then also specifically in apartheid South Africa, the ANC.
Yeah, I was gonna say, which was what Mandela was a part of, right? Was he not? I don't remember. My South African history is shoddy, but
decided to take up violent means because they had
that did actually happen. He's giving Hasan freebies.
Disobedience. Originally, they chose to oppose the apartheid by engaging in mass actions and trying to get mass arrests to cripple. And
the comparison to South Africa is so cringe. Oh God, it's just because people are using the apartheid meme word.
Then there was another riot where police opened up live fire and killed 69 black protesters against the apartheid from the ANC. And then after that, there was a shift into more militant resistance against the apartheid. And the violence from the ANC, just like the violence from the IRA in the Troubles, was not only, it wasn't directly against
I was asking about
military
American
positions.
slavery. But the truth is, I've been learning a lot about Israel Palestine, and I don't know as much about like South Africa apartheid. So
why is it a bad comparison? It's just a dog shit comparison. Because when you think about when you think spiritually about why apartheid is bad because you've got a country that exists and there's a government that's enforcing on its citizens racial hierarchies. That's fucking horrible. It's insane. The Israel occupation of like militarily occupied territories is a different type of issue, right? So, for instance, you can say the occupation of the territories is bad. The indefinite armistice lines are bad. The inability to resolve anything is bad. These are bad things. But like to call it apartheid, kind of like yeah, of course it's apartheid. But it's not apartheid because Israel is trying to enforce like double standards on the people there. It's apartheid because there's a military occupation that hasn't been resolved yet for 50 plus years, right? That's the issue.
As it is now, I don't think you could convince a
Yeah, when people use the term apartheid, they're trying to do that because they're saying that the only solution is a one-state solution. That apartheid is a dog whistle for one state. That's what that means.
That's why I believe it's a non-starter. I don't think you'll ever convince Israel to basically dissolve their state and remake it as one state. I just don't think Israel would ever do that, ever.
I don't disagree with you.
It would never happen. The only way that would happen is beside force, which is why I asked in the beginning, what could lead to Israel willingly dissolving its country and agreeing to create a one-state country, short of just annihilating massive amounts of Israelis in an all-out war. I don't see any other way to do it.
No, I think that. No, the way to do that the enforcement mechanism would be international pressure, but most importantly, the number one most important party at play here, the United States of America. Now, the reason why I talked about the ANC or South African apartheid is because Israel and South Africa were allies in that same time frame, and they relied on one another quite effectively.
Wait, in what time frame are we talking about?
War as well, and also, I personally believe that Israel saw.
Wait, what time frame is he talking about? Cold War. That's a long time.
And vowed not to repeat those mistakes in order to continue being a ethno state, a Jewish ethno state, and maintain an apartheid structure in occupied territories. So that's the reason why I think it's important to draw this parallel. And it's also important because that's how international pressure worked in that situation. It's a very successful and very recent example of an apartheid regime ending with international pressure, specifically with American sanctions. What's up?
You think with international pressure, Israel would dissolve their country and create a one state?
With international pressure, Israel would do anything that, not even international pressure, but just American pressure, Israel would do anything that America wants.
I think it's important for you to understand.
But we've pressured them off of settlements in the past, and clearly they haven't done that.
That will never happen. And I say this not from a right or wrong perspective. I'm just saying this from pragmatically. I know Israelis. I've lived in Israel. That will never, ever, ever happen, short of all-out war. They will never give up the country, ever. It will never. It's 0% chance.
No, I understand that. I know that there isn't a willingness. Here's the counter. Here's the counter from South Africa. You could say, in South Africa, the white population was only 10%, right? And even then, the majority, after long and continued pressure campaigns from the international community, actually moved in the direction of ending the apartheid themselves. So that is actually a valid, that is actually a way to counter what I'm saying right now, right? You can just say, well, in South Africa, even the majority white population was on board with ending the apartheid for one reason or another, whereas in Israel, there's currently no appetite for this whatsoever.
It is 73% Jews in Greater Israel. So there's a ton of Palestinians, in West Bank and Gaza and neighboring countries.
Yes.
But it is largely a Jewish state by quite a margin, which makes it, in my opinion, uncomparable. It's not apples, it's not apples to apples with apartheid South Africa.
What do you mean by that?
Well, as you said, the white population was 10%, right?
Oh yeah, the white population was much smaller, and this is what Noam Chomsky refers to as like Israel's labor problems being fixed in the aftermath of the first Intifada. Israel relied on obviously the Arab population to do the labor in many cases, like cheaper labor. And after the first Intifada was fought with strikes and stone throwing and the like, Israel moved in a different direction. That's why there's like a new population of a labor force that is often imported in, whether it's Sudanese refugees or whether it's Thai workers that are able.
How many Sudanese refugees are imported into Israel to work? Somebody link me these numbers.
I feel like you're not understanding or not understanding. I don't mean to say it in a condescending way. I don't mean
refugees.
Like that. I just mean like you're not
Israel.
engaging with this idea that Israel will never give up its state short of all-out war and violence.
It's not about Israel giving up its state. It's about Israel dissolving the apartheid structure and allowing Palestinians to also be a part of its democratic process.
In 2008, there were 4,000 Sudanese in Israel. Okay, what?
So from the 73% Jewish population especially, in doing such a thing, I totally get that. There's two considerations here, or three actually. One is the moral one. I think you and I both agree that is, like, that would be a good thing, right? Ending the apartheid would be a good thing. The second consideration is a matter of international law, and the last one is obviously what this would look like in practice. So when I talk about the morality...
Also, and I could be incorrect on this because I didn't read a lot about like the economies of the West Bank or the economies of Palestine and Israel. But weren't Palestinians having work permits to work in Israel? Isn't that considered a good thing? Israel's economy is obviously a lot more thriving and bustling and everything. Like, wouldn't you want, if you're a Palestinian, wouldn't you want to go work in Israel to like earn money and shit? Wasn't that? I thought that was a good thing for them. Or am I incorrect? Because he's making it sound like Israel was using like Palestinians as like slave labor, or maybe they underpaid them, maybe or something. But I mean, because there was something, it was like half the Palestinian workforce was driving into Israel to go and work. But
it's still,
at least prior to the first Intifada, I don't know how much that changed after.
The reality that this would be an ethno state, and there's pressure campaigns that could work from the international community that could sway the Israeli.
I don't think, dude, you can. It doesn't matter whatever sanctions you can dream of. You're not gonna convince Israel to dissolve their borders.
Hasan can't engage with anything realistic. Hasan can't do anything outside of theory. It's just gonna. God, I hate this stupid fucking beanie he's wearing. Ugh.
Are talking about this conversation of peace.
Okay.
Another thing you have to understand is that a ton of the Israeli population are people who escaped the Holocaust, and when they came down there, they bring generations of paranoia and persecution, and so. There is, I believe, a widespread belief held by nearly every Israeli that if the borders would dissolve, if the borders would come down, there would be a massive genocide against Jews, and that they believe that, and I don't know necessarily to what extent that might be true, but I can tell you for sure that that's what they hear when they think one state is basically a bunch of Israelis being massacred. That's what they hear. That's what they see, and that's why it will never happen.
Okay, so the paranoia that people have, or Holocaust survivors have, especially, is I guess important for the practical application of the matter. But I'll give you an example of like the government moving in a direction that the people actually don't want the government to move in, at the behest of the United States. So
what?
Or even sometimes moving in the direction that people don't want it to move in, but then still engaging in it. Like the rapid settlement expansion is something that is often contentious and has been very contentious throughout time. Government doesn't really factor into considerations like what the broader liberal Israeli society thinks about the matter. They just keep building the fucking settlements and populating these areas, right? And the opposite has happened as well. In a time when, according to the Israeli Democratic Institute polling, I believe 80% of the Israeli Jewish population believes that there's no need to consider Palestinian lives. In the last siege in Gaza, the government has taken steps that some people would find to be inappropriate in opening up humanitarian corridors so that you can bring in supplies. Defense Minister Yoav Gallant was asked the question in the aftermath of the first day of the Rafah border opening so that they could bring in trucks and trucks of supplies into Gaza. They were asked, why are you doing this?
Was this after October 7th?
Responded with,
or
what can I do? America told me I have to do this. In 2021, Joe Biden called up Netanyahu. What's up?
Letting humanitarian aid through Rafah crossing, comparing that to dissolving your sovereign border.
Yeah, is wild.
No, of course. It's not a one-to-one comparison at all. I'm simply stating that something as minor as that.
Rafah, is that in the northeast?
All the way to
no, that's the one in Egypt. Never mind.
Is entirely up to the United States.
I need to read. What is the control that Israel has on the Egyptian crossing into the Gaza Strip?
To do.
What pressure could the United States exert over Israel that would be so powerful that they would say we have to dissolve our country?
First of all, I don't believe that this would be a dissolvement of Israel as a nation state. It would simply allow the Palestinians that are currently under occupation to be also a part of the democratic process. And it also would not happen overnight either. But if you're asking me the question, it's sanctions. It's the shutting off the money faucet. It's shutting off bombs. I mean, we were just looking at it. You said you were watching the stream earlier, so you probably saw this already. But we shipped two different, We shipped two different mobile Iron Dome trucks into Israel. We are consistently shipping in Mark 84 rockets into Israel so that they can directly use this on the offensive, by the way. This is not even a defensive weapon that they have. This is specifically so they can engage in offensive posturing in the Gaza Strip. So without America's involvement, Israel would not be able to behave in the ways that it has so far. America could just as easily tomorrow, with one phone call, turn on, call Bibi Netanyahu and say, enough, cut it out, you're done. Joe Biden has done this in 2021. Even Ronald Reagan has done this in the past. George W. Bush has done this, or George H.W. Bush, sorry. So we have a lot more say on what Israel gets to do than vice versa.
So your statement is that if America stops selling Israel bombs and arms,
Israel's going to dissolve its state.
They will, I say dissolve the country because, again, that's how the people in Israel are going to view this.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It won't be the same place, for them. And to them, their security is paramount.
We're not selling the weapons, we're just giving them weapons.
Okay, so you don't think that Israel could get bombs from other places?
They could just buy from China, right?
Israel is our ally, and Israel relies a tremendous amount on U.S. aid, right? To the tune of $4 billion, but also
does Israel rely a tremendous amount on U.S. aid? Is that true? Does it need U.S. aid to survive?
Weapon schematics, U.S. weapons to China. America stopped that, right? So Israel does have global partnerships, but many of those global partnerships are still almost entirely managed by the United States. So the way I see Israel is not necessarily an independent nation state, but simply an American state, a very important state too, not fucking Montana, an actual American state that Americans care about, more like New York.
Let's see, Israel government budget.
We love the people from Montana. 22? We kid them, but we love them.
But so for that reason, America has complete control over Israel's trade relationships. Obviously, there's there are obviously times when some Israeli actions will over leverage or overextend itself that like Americans will get mad at, but ultimately they're still fine with it. Like Pegasus. Are you familiar with Pegasus is?
Yeah, of course. And Israel, and I'm sure there's lots of other countries that would happily love to use that in exchange for any fucking thing that Israel wanted, if there was to be their ties to be severed.
Yeah, so like America has been very critical of the Pegasus software, right? Like, because it's so invasive, the surveillance technology, and yet America also uses Pegasus. So like, it's more so, it's almost always this like, hey guys, don't do that, and like finger wagging publicly while simultaneously, helping Israel continue doing whatever it's doing because it's beneficial to us.
America's influence over Israel is great, but
I think it's absolute.
I mean, Israel was fighting to defend itself before America gave a fuck about the region. So I don't see, I genuinely think that it will never happen. Even if America was like, I'm cutting your aid, this relationship is over unless you open the borders and create this new state.
I think before America it was the British. Before America, I think it was the British. And
after the British were gone, after the Palestinian Mandate, and the British said, fuck this, I don't want to deal with this shit. The Jews were fighting to defend themselves and their new place in that area from the very beginning with no help from anybody.
That's not true. They were shipping in weapons. Even under British occupation, they were still shipping in weapons illicitly.
They were
British occupation.
They were buying them,
about like
but also they weren't getting them for free.
Who was supporting Israel in 1948?
Nobody, except for other Zionists.
The Haganah, Irgun, and Lehi brigades that were at that point almost always considered like a standing army during the Nakba were fighting against.
He's just rattling off. He's rattling off random facts
that had been disarmed by the British. The Zionist brigades at that point, even before England pulled out, even before the British pulled out, were being trained by the British forces, while the other side was being disarmed by the British forces. That's why there was an asymmetry to the violence even then. Over the course of the years, but specifically during the Nakba as well, 6,000 Israelis died, whereas 15,000 Arabs died, with 750,000 Arabs Palestinians being expelled from their homes.
He's just like rattling off like facts. He won't engage with anything he fucking says.
Or whatever.
It's so gross listening to him talk.
Because it was a broadly civilian population that was being slaughtered, and by a militia force that was trained, had weapons, had even a plane, had...
I like how he's saying this. The Brits trained these people. Weren't the Brits literally in charge of the entire Jordanian fucking military? Didn't they wasn't it called the Arabization of the army when Hussein, I think it was Abdullah at the time, literally expelled the British generals and shit? It was like, fuck off, don't control our army. Bro, this is such a...
During 1948, there was an arms embargo during the time.
Yep, there was.
Yeah, and they sent in illicit weapons into Israel regardless. That's what I was talking about.
They got it from France, that was Czechoslovakia.
Other areas.
Can you provide a source on that?
No!
That's not how I
can't message Ethan. I can't. I'm not going to do it.
I understand that they got some help and weapons from Czechoslovakia was selling them rifles and shit.
Selling them, and they had to smuggle them in.
Selling it to them, you know what I mean?
Yes,
There wasn't a lot of countries that were willing to sell them anything, but Czechoslovakia.
There was an arms embargo, which meant that they were acquiring illicit weapons. Yes, this is true.
But they weren't getting help.
Many different countries.
Who is the many different countries? Was it mainly Czechoslovakia?
Beyond that, they also had access to British arms as well. That's why they had armored personnel carriers, tanks. Not many, but ultimately you were fighting against a civilian population that was almost completely disarmed.
They literally terrorist attacked the Brits in 48, was it 48? Was it 44 to 48? When did the Camp David Hotel thing happen? I don't think the Brits wanted to give them a fuck ton of shit afterwards.
Why? Because they lost, but they were considered one of the best armies in the world, which is why the war was so thought to be this is going to be an easy dub for the Arab countries.
I don't think that they were. I do not think that they were a really good standing army at all. I think that the overarching
Wait, wasn't it?
I don't know if
a
you're
good
talking
standing
about
army?
1948 or if you're talking about 1967.
48. I'm talking about 1948 war.
Okay, there was no. I think there is a little bit of confusion with what you're saying because what you're describing sounds like 1967 because in 1948, like the Egyptian army that you're referencing in 1948 is not like a serious one.
Wait, what is he talking about?
No, I'm talking about 1948. I think Egypt was considered like a military power, especially in the region, and a fairly well trained army. But I think we're kind of to go back to the original point. So I don't want to.
I don't remember how strong Egypt's military is considered in 48. I'm actually not sure. But
Israel, if it has to, will definitely go its own way before it dissolve its borders. Like I hope. I really want people to understand how impossible, how that will never, ever, ever happen. And again, not defending them. I'm not justifying anything. I'm just speaking pragmatically. You have a people who are coming from this systemic genocide, coming and getting their own borders here, right or wrong. Again, just being pragmatic. They have a massive, well-trained standing army of the whole country. They have nuclear bombs. They're fucking crazy, dude. They do believe that dissolving the borders would be a second genocide. They believe that, all of them, almost all of them, I'd say. And so you have to reckon with this reality. That with the one state, it's impossible.
I understand it, and that's why I said it's not going to happen overnight. It's not like, all right, everybody, like, it's a one state now. Like, that's not how this works, right? But a international commitment in the exact opposite direction has to happen, and it has not happened thus far.
Well, then a good question even then is like, do you ever even think that's possible before we can even get to the idea that we need to exert pressure on Israel from foreign forces?
I think that there's a reason why there is a steady flow of propaganda into the Western world that the Israel Foreign Ministry cares about a lot because they want to maintain a posture.
Can you pick out some crazy comments in chat? His whole chat is fucking insane. I don't know what you want me to say.
Broadly supported by the Western world. And I think that dam has been breaking since 2021 once like B'Tselem, Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch also all officially declared Israel to be an apartheid state. In my opinion,
I guess I have more faith in Israeli people to be against genocide than Ethan does.
But yes, over time, as the brutality of this regime continues to get worse and worse, more and more people will.
Wait,
in my opinion,
Benny Morris was the one who said Egypt had the most powerful military at the time. Are these guys Benny Morris haters?
Protesting
probably
Israel's actions and will push for more.
Their economy will not survive the loss of American aid.
Get Western leadership to pull support away and ultimately even move in the direction of sanctions. This kind
of timeline are we thinking here?
I'm not entirely. I don't know. I don't know how long this will take, but I won't stop fighting for it.
It doesn't go on that long. It sounds like that's a really long plan.
Well, there's not really. I mean, the inverse of this is also a really long plan, and the really long plan revolves around Israel continuing to like slowly but surely engage in pogroms in the West Bank, turn a blind eye to it, or directly arm the settlers like Itamar Ben-Gvir has been doing, and continue to push Palestinians in the West Bank further and further away, with the ultimate goal of like maintaining an ethnic cleansing and ethnic displacement campaign in parts of Gaza, maybe even annex further and further, because like everybody fully understands that there's no way to like eradicate not just Hamas, but just like a means of violent resistance against an apartheid, right? So if it's not Hamas, then it's Hamas too, right? Hamas in and of itself was not a real entity that was even remotely popular in its formation, moving away from a charity group, an Islamic charity group that like literally was getting funding from Israel as well, to an actual militant group in 1988, to one that switched over to start using suicide bombs on civilian targets. in the aftermath of 1994.
I like how Hasan, this is like, it's so frustrating.
Because it's easy to look at Israel and look at all the...
And I have to figure out, I need to do like more rhetorical tricks, I guess, because it's not, none of these conversations are real. I hate when people can't just engage with a question and go back and forth, like using the information they have, but it's always just like random info dumps. Like if you say the right word, it'll trigger an info dump. Hasan is like the ultimate info dumper. Like if you ask him anything, do you think it would be good? Like if I've got a really bad headache, do you think I can take like ibuprofen for that? And then Hasan's answer is going to be like, well, sometimes ibuprofen can help with headaches. In some countries, ibuprofen lysine is licensed for treatment of the same condition of ibuprofen, and lysine salt is used because it's more water soluble. And ibuprofen lysine is used for rapid pain relief given in some forms. There's cardio. Like he just like starts rattling off just like a whole bunch of, and it doesn't really truly reinforce his argument in a roundabout way, kind of. But he just like starts to ramble until he's like overwhelmed you with like shit that doesn't even really refute or support. It's just very. I don't know. I hate this style of like conversation. It's so irritating.
Having the exact same understanding of the situation. So the reason why I brought up Hamas and its founding charter in 1988, which is like expel all the Jews, like kill all the Jews, or whatever the fuck they said, like the radical violent shit that they said in their founding charter, is because Hamas, out of all of the militant factions that some were violently resisting against the Israeli occupation, some of which were actually interested in a peaceful solution, like the one that you just mentioned with Yitzhak Rabin, the PLO, Yasser Arafat, the official recognition that that there was peace negotiations that would finally feature Palestinian voices at the table, changed a lot of Palestinians' minds on the issue. So Oslo in and of itself was already a non-starter agreement, in my opinion. A lot of Palestinians felt like that was fucked up.
Wait, really?
Like the conditions that were offered in Oslo were completely inconsiderate to the needs and demands.
Wasn't Oslo literally the founding of the Palestinian National Authority? Wasn't that literally the first time that Israel had actually begun to hand over? I know that like it got stalled in the end. I'm so curious, I guess, like what a historian would think about. I feel like the Oslo Accords, they weren't perfect, and we didn't get everything we wanted by the end, and people on both sides tried to frustrate the process towards the end. But it was the formation of the Palestinian National Authority. It was for the first time, I think, that Israel had truly started to hand over areas of security to an actual Palestinian government. Like it wasn't perfect, but like
popularity, which to me signals that the Palestinians were always on board with believing that Israel would offer them a favorable negotiation, and yet
they did the second intifada because they didn't think it was fair. I thought the second intifada came off the failures of Camp David more so than just protesting the Oslo Accords.
Offering very little, simultaneously offering very little to the Palestinians, having red lines that were considered non-starters for Israel, like Israel's own demographic concerns, while maintaining while simultaneously expanding rapidly and partitioning off different parts of the West Bank, which was occupied territory. So from the eyes of the Palestinians, they saw this as yet another instance where, okay, well, we're trying to negotiate with Israel. Yasser Arafat is trying to negotiate with Israel, and yet they're not giving us anything. They keep pushing us. They keep blocking and pushing, and using this as a means to continuously build settlements and continue pushing out Palestinians in the West Bank. And that's
isn't Oslo a country in Norway? Oslo is the capital city. That's where the accords were negotiated. That's what's called the Oslo Accords.
So I do not fault Palestinians for looking at the situation and thinking, well, what the fuck are we supposed to do? Another turning point was obviously the Israel pulling out of Lebanon. This was another pivotal moment where a lot of Palestinians were like, okay, well, Hezbollah violently resisted Israeli occupation, and that occupation became too costly for Israel, so they had to pull out. Meanwhile, on the other hand, we are still occupied, and our leaders are trying to work with Israel, and the leaders that are trying to work with Israel have been given weapons, have been given training, and then they use those weapons and that training to maintain some semblance of civil governance, but that civil governance isn't actually real civil governance. It's simply being used against Palestinians. So That is the reason why Yasser Arafat's influence waned over the course of this multiple decades-long process, where everyone saw him as an incredibly corrupt figure by the end of it, and were looking for any other option that would possibly offer them real emancipation, real results. The goal for both Hamas and any other violent movement has never been to, like, wipe out every Jewish person around the world or whatever. And it's always to,
I like how he says
make
around the world
as costly as possible.
Because it is to wipe them all out in Israel was true. I like how he put
Hamas,
in around the world there. That was very clever.
Brutal.
That was very clever. A+ on that propaganda point.
But having said all of that, the goal always is for them to make this occupation as costly as possible so that Israel cannot maintain it.
Right. But again, without drawing conclusions about who's right and who's wrong. Broadly, I agree with the Palestinians. I think it's worth saying in terms of them being fucked over, obviously the hardest, and being the most entitled to peace and reparations and lands and stuff. But again, okay. Let's go back. So Hamas was created in opposition.
Yes. Twitch ads.
Looking at now, I'm just being real. Like, you have to see how impossible it is. It's just a non-starter. It's just a non-starter with Israel. It will just never, ever happen. And another question I have to ask you, I guess, going along is like, do you think a lasting peace is possible while Hamas is in power?
I think that in order for Hamas to actually be dealt with appropriately and for it to no longer exist, the major goal of Hamas needs to be eviscerated, which is a secular democratic republic would completely destroy any kind of legitimate need for violent emancipation. It's over at that point. There's no, like, without the apartheid, there's no reason for any of this to exist.
You're saying if they lift the blockade, Hamas will just dissolve.
Hamas in and of itself is already not a very popular entity. Both in Gaza, but I guess ironically a little bit more popular in the West Bank. As
wait, what's the source? What's the source for that? I feel like the majority of Palestinians still support
popular than Hamas
violently fighting against Israel. Those are the most recent polls that I saw.
This is Israel's arrogance. The way that the Israeli governments under Netanyahu and under even more peaceful, supposedly more dovish leadership like even Ehud Barak. The Palestinian Authority has always been used as a part of the Israeli security apparatus. The Palestinian Authority collaborates with the Israeli government. They actually give up resistance members. They literally give up random Palestinians to the Israeli government so they can be unlawfully detained. This, of course, has created in the minds of Palestinians a anger towards, like, the one group that is supposed to be collaborating with Israel. Israel had every opportunity throughout this time frame to show that the secular Fatah party was actually not simply a cutout that is simply there to oppress Palestinians, but with a Palestinian face, but instead, like, offered genuine security assurances, genuine security commitments, and a good faith interest in, like, not continuously expanding in the West Bank. But they didn't do that. They did the exact opposite, dangling the two-state solution as a carrot while simultaneously continuing on with their expansive policies in the West Bank.
I don't believe you answered the question. Do you think a lasting peace is possible while Hamas is in power?
Ethan is so much better at this than I am.
Hamas will not be in power if there is lasting peace. That's my point.
Okay. So you're saying, well, no. The lasting peace doesn't come first.
Yes.
First you have to deal with Hamas.
Restate it, yep.
You cannot deal with Hamas by bombing Gaza. You can only deal with it in it's a political problem.
So
Hamas is
But how do you do politics with a terrorist group like Hamas?
Well, Israel has done politics with Hamas many times over. There has been ceasefires in between.
Ceasefires is not the dissolution of your borders.
That's not even a like. Even if we're having this conversation,
doing
Israel itself has been able
is,
to.
First of all, agreeing to a humanitarian ceasefire.
No. Not even I'm not talking about like a humanitarian pause. I'm talking like ceasefires in between different sieges that have occurred into Gaza.
Okay. The ceasefires is different from having a peace partner.
Yes. Like ceasefires are the new Israeli borders.
Ceasefire is different than having a peace partner, but that is one form of negotiations.
Ceasefires are the 67 borders, the post-67 borders.
I don't think it's fair to say that Hamas would be a good partner in peace with Israel. You think Hamas would be a good partner in peace with Israel?
No, I do not. I do not believe that Hamas would be a good peace partner with Israel. I also do not believe Israel is a good peace partner for Palestinians in general. I think that is the most important part.
We agree.
So
but
here's
again,
the thing. Hamas in and of itself.
My thesis is just again to draw it back to that is that the one-state solution will never happen, and starting from there is a non-starter. That's my thesis. But go ahead about Hamas.
Okay. So here is what is important to understand. And this is not just my assessment. This is the assessment of the likes of Norm Finkelstein as well. And it's backed by actual sentiment expressed by Likud party members, but of course Benjamin Netanyahu too. Hamas's and its existence as a violent Islamist fundamentalist cutout greatly benefits thwarting any kind of Palestinian nation-state project. This is not my design. This is the design of the Israeli government. This is something that Benjamin Netanyahu has openly mentioned time and time again.
I don't think that's true, by the way. I'm glad that we had, when Katie and that other guy were on and we were investigating that Benjamin Netanyahu quote about like dividing Hamas and the PA or whatever. This is highly misrepresented. That they make it sound like basically Hamas popped up because Netanyahu was like, oh, we need to thwart the Palestinian Union and blah, blah, blah. Whereas when you actually read Netanyahu's quote, not to say I agree or disagree with his politics, but when you read the Netanyahu quote, he's clearly talking about how the Palestinian Authority, Abbas, who I think is still the leader, right, has lost control of Hamas, and that like, what was the argument that, oh God, I'm trying to remember, because there was Qatari money involved, and then there was the Palestinian Authority money involved, and people tried to make it sound like Netanyahu, basically that he'd like invented Hamas in the Gaza Strip, or like created as a support just to fuck with the Palestinians, rather than Netanyahu commenting on how the Palestinians had lost control of the people in Gaza. Oh, I remember. The reason why the Qatari money, so this is Netanyahu's claim, okay? Now, whether you agree or disagree, it's fine, but at least deal with the claim. The argument was Netanyahu was letting in the Qatar money to go into the Gaza Strip just because he wanted to support Hamas, to watch the violence, persevere and blah, 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 right? Netanyahu's claim was the Palestinian Authority was cutting off money to Gaza in an attempt to make the Hamas and the Gazan people so desperate that they eventually have to go full-scale civil war, right? Because the PA is not giving them their owed money or paying any of their civil services, and the PA, I think, didn't want the Qatari money to go in. So the idea would be, what Netanyahu accused Abbas of doing, was that Gaza would become so unworkable, so untenable, a massive war would happen. It would force Israel to go in, expel all of Hamas, and then just give that basically back to Abbas after he'd done all of the work for him. That was Netanyahu's argument. Whether you would agree or disagree is fine, and there might be strong supporting arguments to show that Netanyahu is completely full of shit, or there might be strong supporting arguments to say that, like, oh, this actually maybe was Abbas's goal, or more likely there's going to be a little bit of truth on both sides, but at least engage with the actual argument. Don't like do this bullshit like, oh, Netanyahu loves Hamas because it helps him. It's just it's so reductively stupid.
Process, and be able to actually vote for a group of individuals that would lead them in civil governance without worrying, becoming a militant faction. In this process, I do not believe that it would be Hamas that wins out. Most Palestinians do not.
Also, one thing that I don't know how I feel about this. Firstly, somebody in chat said this earlier. It's a good point. If you would ask Hasan, do you think that maybe Ukraine should just come to a peace agreement with Russia, even though they don't control the land bridge, and even though Russia kind of took some of their territory, like to reduce the amount of civilian deaths? I feel like Hasan would be like, maybe Ukraine should consider peace. I feel like Hasan would say that. But when it comes to Hamas, I like how Palestinians are treated like basically retarded children for all of these leftist commentators. Like, Palestinians are retards. They're barbaric, and all they can do is fight against Israel. Any amount of blockade or anything will cause all of them to turn to terrorism. Like, how can you possibly expect a dipshit Palestinian to ever push for peace, when there's a blockade? Like, this is the argument. This is the line of argumentation from every leftist. And then they call other people racist for saying that, like, well, it seems like a lot of Palestinians support terrorism. I find this argument wholly unconvincing and just like the most ridiculous. I don't know. It's like Palestinians have no choice but to support an organization that's been firing rockets at Israel for the past 15 years. Is that really true? Is that really true of the Palestinian people? That's the only option they have? I don't buy that. That's redonkulous. I don't buy that. Why does left always treat their treasured groups like retarded trolls? Yeah, I don't know. I think it's ridiculous.
Wow, Palestine has its own sovereign country. And like, I think in the original idea, there was even going to be
that's more violent than a one state. Like, you think Israel would be able to successfully take out 471,000 settlers living in the West Bank, and also another 300,000, almost 300,000 more plus living in East Jerusalem as well, which is occupied, but now also permanently under Israeli rule?
You think that fully integrating the populations would be less violent?
Yes.
I don't.
Jesus. Okay.
Dude, there's no way. Like, all it takes is one thing. We've seen this time and time again in the history of this region. Like, it just takes one thing of like a bunch of psychotic.
When Israel disengaged from Gaza, from the Gaza Strip, I think it was 20 or so settlements were pulled out. How many people did they pull out from the Gaza Strip? How many Israeli settlers were in the Gaza Strip?
You got to all out. It takes so little to create all-out war.
I agree.
So little, dude.
I agree, which is why there needs to be an international presence and a steady steady pressure to ensure that there is political pressure applied.
8,000, a few thousand, 10,000, 6,000.
The Israeli side to ensure that there's a lasting peace process. This has happened time and time again. It happened in the dissolution of the apartheid state. It happened with the Good Friday Agreement, that ended the Troubles. And it will.
Wait, why are we using Ireland as an example now? Wait, what? What the fuck?
I think peaceful solutions are our natural state. We want to fucking coexist with one another. And the example I always use is when you look at Europe, right, which is a borderless utopia now, like the EU, the European Union, there's freedom of movement. Those guys have fought one another since the cousin fucker days for far longer than they've actually peacefully coexisted with one another. And now it seems impossible to think of a time when these guys would kill one another for 100 years, right? I mean, World War II happened not that long ago. The Holocaust happened not that long ago. And now when you think about it, Germany can peacefully coexist with all of the other surrounding.
I don't want to make a culture argument, but like, when you look at the European Union, weren't these all a whole bunch of like liberal democracies coming together and making these agreements? Wasn't that generally I know that a lot of them are quote unquote monarchies, but they're like parliamentarian systems, right? Like where the monarchs are effectively, I don't want to say powerless, but yeah, mascots.
Tens of millions of people died and countries were forever changed and traumatized, and they were able to create a lasting peace.
Yes.
True.
And that does not happen. That does not need to happen.
Okay.
No, I'm saying even in a situation like that, you can find peace.
Parallel to the Middle East?
Even in a situation like that where millions died, right? Millions, tens of millions died, you can still find lasting peace almost overnight. And that is precisely that's precisely what I'm saying. It's perfectly reasonable to assume. It's perfectly reasonable to assume, as long as there is international pressure, and that there is accountability and control, and a committee designed specifically to dish out punishments for war criminals on both sides, according to the International Criminal Court, when there's a Truth and Reconciliation Committee in a similar capacity to the aftermath of World War II, and there's reparations afforded and a right to return to Palestinians, there will be no need for violence. This has happened in the past, and it can happen again. It seems unlikely because we're very conditioned to thinking like, oh, what is going on right in front of my eyes is exactly how things have been in my lifetime, and it can never change. Except it absolutely has changed, and it absolutely can change, and it will change. And that's why I use other historic examples like I mentioned, you know, Ireland or the ANC and apartheid South Africa. These happen in our lifetimes.
If you look at peace in Europe, I think this was possible from rising from the ashes of a ruined continent where unspeakable horrors that people didn't even think were possible occurred, capped off with a nuclear bomb. And by the way, Europe, the characterization of Europe as a utopia is interesting. But I want to say this. You saying sanctions against America or sanctions against Israel, you think would influence Israel to drop their borders. How have sanctions against Russia been going?
That's thank you for saying that.
Oh boy.
Russia
trauma dump.
is a foreign adversary that has always positioned itself with the full knowledge that support from America or support or a trade relationship with America is always on an uneven footing, right? So Russia, as an economic power, has never had to rely on America being able to meddle in their affairs in any meaningful capacity. Sanctions against our enemies, our foreign adversaries, oftentimes do not work. As a matter of fact, it's a means to galvanize the existing regime and its brutality. It doesn't work against Iran. It doesn't work against Russia.
Israel can forge the same alliances.
No,
you
it
think
can't.
China and Russia and North Korea and whoever the fuck else gives a fuck? You know what I mean?
No, it can't. I don't think so.
It can.
Can we fact check that Israel can't exist without U.S. support? It can. I don't know why we would say that. I don't know where that claim comes from.
Especially because like
$3 billion in military aid against their what was their government budget every year? It was over $100 billion. I don't even know what they spent on their military. Like even as a percentage of the military budget, I think it was like 13% or whatever. Like that's a stupid claim.
Israelis that are used to like a relatively comfortable existence, especially like one that with such close association to the Western world, would ever be on board with.
Dude, Israel is extremely resourceful. They've proven that from their inception. There's no way they will ever drop the border of their sovereignty. It will never ever happen. I understand everything you're saying, and I think what you're saying is interesting about, like, you know, potentially over a long span of time strengthening diplomatic ties with the neighboring countries and stuff. I guess it's possible, you know, in like 50 or 60 years that the landscape could be so vastly different than it is now that maybe if I were to be there and see it then, I could be like, okay, maybe this can work. But as of right now, looking at the situation, I can tell you, as someone who's lived in Israel, as someone who knows tons of Israelis, it will never happen. The Jews, they said, they came out of Europe and they said never again. I know a lot of people find it ironic because of what they're doing to Palestinians. I'm not defending them, but they believe that. They went to Israel.
They're not holocausting Palestinians.
They said never again, and they made nuclear bombs, and they made a big-ass army, and they believe that shit. Trust me on that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I do trust you. I hear it. I see it. I know. You cannot maintain
oh my God.
a apartheid regime without like a steady flow of constantly reinforcing that through propaganda. A steady flow of propaganda is a necessity. That's precisely the reason why a lot of these positions.
October 7th happens, bro. You don't need propaganda. I mean, like everybody engages in propaganda, of course, but
and
this is what Slogan is posting right now on Hasan's Discord. He's literally mask off, racist and Islamophobic. I miss when Ethan Klein only made fun of Helen Keller. Israel would never do that. Taking peace into consideration or not, Israel is trying to occupy Palestine fully. The Arabs are so scary. Like, she's just trying to make Ethan sound like he's racist. If you're screen recording this, Ethan rehearsed his same one point in the mirror before going on stream. Can you really take anybody seriously when Hila called Ramallah a terrorist village? This is the video that she posted, apparently. Hold on, let me listen to this.
Once you went on like a...
Oh, it's like a 2-minute video. Wow, Edmund, thanks for the $50 again. What else is this? Ethan is the Israel expert, allegedly, because he lived there. Yo, low-key, why does Ethan have morning voice? Oh, that's why. I love Zionism. I can't. I swear to God, Ethan crying over Palestinian kids, that one Leftovers episode were crocodile tears. I need Hasan to go stupid? I don't know that typo. What was the video that Frogan posted?
Mission with... You told me once you went on, like, a mission with them? To, like, a terrorist city?
Yeah.
That was kind of a crazy story.
Yeah, my officers and like the soldiers in that brigade, they would go every night on a raid.
Right.
In Ramallah to arrest terrorists, and so I always saw them preparing for it and leaving, and then I would stay in the base. So one time I wanted to go with them just to experience it.
Why? You just were all of a sudden had an urge to go with them?
I just wanted to see what it's like.
Right.
Wanted to see it.
Okay.
So they took me with them one night, even though they weren't supposed to.
Did they armor your ass up?
You're driving in this like Jeep that's bulletproof.
Right.
So I was in the Jeep, and then as soon as we entered Ramallah, the people in the city started shooting us.
Wow.
And I heard like a bullet hit the Jeep like right next to my head.
Did it like dent or just
No,
you
you
heard
just
it?
hear it.
It's a gnarly armored Jeep. Okay.
And I mean, it was just interesting.
They were so someone actually was shooting the car when you went in there right away.
Yeah.
Huh. Did you have a gun on you?
I didn't.
You were not supposed to leave.
No, yeah, not really. But even if I walked with them to one house.
Okay.
I did get out of the car once, but surrounded with them. So.
Okay. Did they arrest anyone that night?
They did.
Did they bring it in the same car with you?
No.
Oh,
different car. There's a few cars going.
Damn, that's crazy. Was it like? How did you feel? Was it horrifying?
It was strange. Very, very weird.
How so?
I don't know. Just you see people in the house, and then it's like the soldiers just walk into the house and look through their shit and find guns, and the whole thing is really surreal.
That's what she leaves out is when she indiscriminately murdered 15 Palestinian children as part of that raid. I think that's later on in the clip. If Hamas is as powerful as people think they are, wouldn't there be retaliation towards Israel right now? You mean like Hezbollah shooting rockets into Israel? Wasn't that happening? Weren't they trying to shoot, were they Scud missiles from Yemen into Israel? But I think they got shot down or intercepted by Israel. And being genuine, my grandparents are older than Israel, so why should Palestinians die? Yo, chat, my uncle has a Palestinian reparations card. If we get the house back, you're all invited. I would respect Ethan much more if he just said he hated Arabs and went along with his day. God, I hate that Ethan ever apologized to this disgusting
Israel's economy at this moment is already in a troublesome situation, even without boycotts and even without sanctions, just simply on its own. So I don't think that it's as I don't think that the situation is as.
Again, you have to acknowledge that to Israelis, the dissolution of its border is literally the genocide of them. They will all die. That's how they feel. So whatever percentage you think matters, if it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I cannot emphasize how fucking little it will matter to Israel ultimately if the question is dissolve your borders. It will never happen, ever. They think if they do that, they will all die. That's the perception in Israel. That's what they think. And you cannot convince them otherwise. You can't.
No, you can, and you can. I think you can, especially because, like I mentioned,
I see the fucking likes on Twitter. I don't care. Okay.
No, I have not, Ethan. But I'm not talking about.
Do you know what the Israeli perspective is?
I do talk to my Israeli counterparts. I've talked to Ofer Kasif. I talked to.
Have you lived through daily suicide bombs in cafes and bus stops? Or
as a matter of fact, I have. I grew up in Turkey, but that's a different point.
Okay.
Yes, I have experienced that 100%.
Wait, from what, the Kurds?
Israel. So, okay, fair enough. You've experienced that in Turkey. Do you think that you can understand, without being there and without living there, like that you can.
I'm genuinely ignorant. For the past 20, 30 years of Turkish history, has, besides the PKK or whatever, besides the Kurdish people, are there other people that have been like terrorist attacking like Turkey for a long time?
The morally.
What is the frequency of like attacks from?
Flinchingly support the morally just cause, right? No matter what happens. If we talk about the practical application, yes, there is going to be people that are resistant to that. Maybe even people who want to engage in acts of terror against that on the Israeli side, especially. But ultimately, these are solvable problems because I look at the material realities on the ground. Without American support, Israel, without Western support, unconditional support, and trade, Israel would not be able to maintain an apartheid regime, just like South Africa was not able to maintain its apartheid regime. And as long as there is more pressure from the West, this will most likely change if America finally does the righteous thing for once in its fucking life. Now, having said that, okay?
By the way, and I just need to make this clear because you keep saying that you support the moralistic thing. I support the moralistic thing too. I'm talking pragmatics here. I'm telling you that the one state is a non-starter. That's my point.
The pragmatism does
I don't
not
have chat open. I don't know what people are saying, but I can only imagine the psychotic take.
Well, don't pay attention to what people are saying. Don't pay attention to what people are saying.
If there's people watching this who are just seething, I'm just telling you this is just what it is. What I'm explaining to you is what it is. And and I believe that people need to reckon with the reality of the situation to actually approach this into a meaningful conversation. Because again, I can't emphasize how much the one state thing is impossible from the Israeli perspective.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you talk about sanctions. I mean, if you look at Russia,
Russia and Israel are not.
Hold on.
Russia and Israel are not the same.
Of course, they're different countries. Western leaders, they all predicted there would be a total collapse of Russia's economy, but all that happened was it made them more nationalistic, made them more resolved. It made them basically search out new partnerships. And I don't think that there's any evidence that Israel would be unable to do the same things.
Because the only times where a sanctions regime
doesn't need America.
The only times a sanctions regime has ever worked is if it's threatening our allies. That's it. We can actually sanction our allies. We cannot sanction our enemies in a way that like stops them from.
Man confronts two people eating bagels after ripping down posters of Hamas hostages.
So do you have a problem with people who were abducted by Hamas?
Dude, I need you to go away, please.
I'm just asking you why you took it away.
I don't want you to be several times to go away. So go the f*** away.
I'm not going away.
We have asked you several times, very politely, to go away. So leave.
It's not polite to take down the sign.
It's not polite to stand here and film us when we're.
What's the point of this missing posters in an entirely different country? Well, if you ask Hasan, I don't know if anybody has the clip, but apparently the point is because Arabs just won't be able to resist tearing them down, so it's to make them look bad. I don't know if anybody has that clip from Hasan's stream. That was an 18-second clip, to be fair. Maybe there's more context where Hasan isn't actually that unhinged, and maybe he's giving more context around it. But why have the posters except for rage baiting? I don't know. Probably just to raise awareness. Why do people put up posters for anything, right? I mean, they're posters. Probably, yeah. It's probably people view it as like a way to raise awareness for an issue. Obviously, you're not gonna find them in another country, right? So this was for a vigil. Oh, somebody said this was for a vigil. Oh, maybe, okay.
You're not okay with a vigil for people who are abducted by Hamas.
Dude, please leave us alone. Please leave us alone. I don't want to.
Oh, shit, he just said it. Sorry, I was reading something else. Wait, really? It was for a vigil?
So why'd you take the sign off for?
I don't want to talk to you. It's
why did this sign bother you? I you.
Off. We're telling you all away. Can you fuck off, please?
Why does this person look like... What? Am I crazy? Does this person look like their parents are about to forget to take them on a Christmas holiday and they're going to spend the entire like holiday weekend fighting off invaders in their home? Am I crazy?
I'm not leaving.
Go away.
I'm not going to leave.
Your business.
It's not my business. I am Jewish and I'm putting the signs up. You see these signs here? These are signs that I'm putting up. So you just took down the sign that
I'm not making fun of their parents. They look like the Home Alone kid, right? Am I crazy?
Put up another one if you want to.
No, I'm asking you why you took it down. I'm going to put up another one for sure.
Put up another one.
I'm just asking you why you took it down. You're very proud to take it down. I saw you from over there. You crumpled it up. You're very proud about it. And now that you're sitting down here, you don't have an explanation for your actions. So I'm just asking you a question why you took it down.
What you're trying to do is to say that I'm doing something disrespectful. I didn't like
I'm asking why you took the sign down. I'm not saying anything about whether.
And there ain't nothing more anti-Semitic than Zionism.
Like you're.
So why did you take the sign off?
I just told you why we took it off.
I'm asking.
How do people get so mad so quickly? I'm never imagining like some guy coming up to me recording me like, ah! Well, I say that, but I'm a streamer, so maybe it's different. That's not fair, I guess, for me to project that because I'm on camera all the time. But
You why you took it off?
Please stop recording me. You're gonna put it on the internet somewhere, and you're gonna fucking claim that you're the one in the right.
I'm just asking.
And
why
you're
you took
being
the
an
sign
asshole
off.
right now to two people who are not.
You can't respond.
I just did.
Okay.
they know the Zionists are coming for him. True. Oh, hold on. I wish there was a longer clip from this. You should always be skeptical of 18-second clips. So maybe there's more context before or after this that changes this, but...
Look at all the point of those posters in and of itself is not to be like, look at all these children that are lost. The point of these posters, the real point of these posters is so that someone goes and fucking tries to rip it off so they can fucking film it and go, look at these scary Arabs. They hate it. They have no interest in Israeli lives. Point of those posters.
You could also just like not tear them down, right? Is that really that hard? Somebody posted this. Does this happen commonly in Hasan's chat? Ethan makes a lot of sense here, to be honest. Desp bomb has been permabanned. Did maybe this guy said something else or something worse in chat?
I think it's so up right now. It's crazy how up it is. Both options seem like pipe dreams right now in this point in time.
Dude, say Slogan is not a pipe dream. It's the only way
I'll tell you
forward.
this much. What changed for me, what I realized was like, especially in this last iteration, this last like counter to the October 7 tragedy.
The indiscriminate
what I
shelling
realized
of
was,
civilians.
I guess it made it permanent in my mind, is that the Israeli government, completely removed from the interests of the Israeli citizenship, Israeli citizenry, operates with a one-track mind. They care more about
thanks for the 5 gifted subs.
Palestinians, not always like ethnically cleansing, but ethnically displacing Palestinians.
Wait, what is the difference between ethnically cleansing and ethnically displacing? Those are the same thing.
They do about the safety and security of the Israeli citizens. I saw this being reflected by those who had been victim to the attacks on Kibbutz Be'eri and other kibbutzim as well. Some of the victims immediately after, while they were still trying to figure out where their family members were in that hotel in the Dead Sea, and they basically were reflecting on the things that had happened, and they were saying a similar thing, that it's like you care if you care more about like killing Palestinians or pushing Palestinians
I didn't realize the time. Jeez. Okay.
Than you do about like the safety.
Wait, I just opened it.
You want it in the fridge? You want to drink it tomorrow?
Well, I'll just hold on to it, okay?
All right.
Yeah, let him just chill here. Okay, he's my guy. Okay, Jesus. It's clear to me that Ethan is far more knowledgeable than I'd have guessed, but do you think remaining calm and conciliatory isn't working to convince people because Hasan stat dump interrupts? Yeah, I think it's kind of weird because if one side is being conciliatory and the other is being like super aggressive, then you're kind of like because you just look bad, which is I think Ethan's problem with a lot of these. Yeah.
Hold on.
Wait, can I say something though? Because like the terrorism designation here.
Point.
Okay, go ahead. Go make your full point.
Let me make my full point here, and then you can respond. There's an interesting phenomenon going on here where, you know, when minorities tell you they're offended by something, usually, especially liberals and leftists, they'll listen because it's not their place, right? They'll say it's not my place. If you say it, then that's what it is. I mean, Jews make up 60% of all hate crimes in America right now.
Mm-hmm.
So when Jewish people look at that and they say, "Listen, it makes me uncomfortable the way that that's used." I find it interesting that people see that as an opportunity to argue instead of listen. Especially to me, it's like you can make the same argument about the Confederate flag, where Southerners will be like, "Listen, it's just about our heritage." You know what I mean? That has nothing to do with racism, and maybe and some people do believe that, right? But at the end of the day, if a black person is like, "That Confederate flag is offensive to me," you're not going to argue with them and say, "No, it's just heritage." Like, not everybody who uses it is racist. So then, you know what I'm saying? Like, it just doesn't seem fair.
I know, but okay. All right, where do I begin here? So
you need to name the bullet point, the same as the article.
For Palestine will be free.
Oh, yeah,
no,
stop.
Its origination, its inception comes from the PFLP, the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine, which you're right was considered a terrorist.
Existed before Nazis.
Okay.
You know,
hold on.
Just saying.
I understand. I'm going to describe it. Okay.
Okay, Ethan has definitely been watching my shit. Holy shit. Oh, man.
Historically, since the 60s, it has always been utilized as a slogan for emancipation and never for anti-Semitism. The reason why Hamas adopted it, the reason why Hamas co-opted it when they had 3% support as opposed to the PLO, which had 83% support, right? Alongside the PLO, was because it was the slogan that was the slogan for Palestinian emancipation. This does not mean that that slogan changed at any given point to mean killing all the Jewish people just because it was co-opted by a marginal militant faction that in and of itself has never reached a similar level of popularity to even a two-state solution has historically amongst Palestinians. They've never pulled anywhere near 52% support.
Where do you, in which part of this do you think it's fair to argue with a group that makes up 80% of all hate crimes that happen in America, or not 80, 60%?
Because
that you can argue with them and say, no, it's fine.
I'm going to tell you. Because, well, two reasons. One, because Palestinians are the oppressed party in the structure against the state of Israel. Not Jews, the state of Israel, which does not...
Remember, for the Marxist analysis, the only thing that matters is the oppressor-oppressee dynamic. There is no other analysis that's ever taken into consideration for these conflicts. This is like where intellectual thought goes to die, are these forms of analysis. They're so bankrupt, and they're so reductive.
A disingenuous framing, a disingenuous conflation. Jewish people themselves say from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. Jewish people are at the forefront of the anti-apartheid, anti-Zionist activism. Jewish Voice for Peace, Jews for Economic, and
the existence of Jewish people doesn't. I don't. That point is not very persuasive. I mean, of course there is.
What do you? Of course, it's. I think it's very important
because there's Israelis that say it.
No,
or a minority or Jewish people shouldn't be offended by it because some people say it. I mean,
no, I think
that's not a strong argument. That's correct. No.
Jewish people. I'm not going to talk about this as like Jewish people in general. The reason why I brought up Jews for Jewish Voice for Peace and other groups using this as well, like Jews themselves in America using this anti-Zionist slogan, indicates that this slogan isn't one that is about the evisceration of Jews. If that was the case, then they wouldn't use it.
There was Jewish collaborators with Nazis.
Ethan, don't do that, please. Don't say that the Jews' Voice for Peace are akin to capos. Like that's.
I'm telling you that
just because it's the same. It is the same.
Jewish voices doesn't
not validate it or say that it's not hateful.
It's not a leg to stand on. I don't understand that.
But
of course,
you're failing. But the most important component here,
it's like you're tokenizing a few Israelis.
Yep, correct. Silly. That's exactly what he's doing. Yep.
Ethan,
you're like, here, check out my Israeli. He says it.
Yep.
That's not.
That's exactly what Hasan is doing.
I don't find it a good point.
Well, I will explain to you why it's not a comparison.
Let me educate you.
Because I think you agree with me on this as well, that it's Palestinian emancipation is just, right?
Well, what do you mean?
It's just. Whereas the Confederacy is not. The Confederacy was there to preserve They said states' rights, but it was there to preserve the maintenance of slavery. Palestinian emancipation is not, or has not ever been, broadly defined at any moment throughout its history. The evisceration of all Jews living in Israel, or the forcible expulsion of all Jews living in Israel. Other militant factors that were
I don't believe that's true. I'd have to go back and check, but in 48, wasn't the goal the expulsion of all the Israeli people from that territory? In 48? I thought that was the surrounding. I thought that was the goal in that war in 48. It might have even been the goal in the 6 day. No, I think it was the explicitly stated goal in the 6 day war as well, right? Is the explicitly the expulsion of all the Israeli people from that area.
Where the motivations lie. You
have to go back and I'm pretty sure it was. But
is that you're saying that Israel,
I don't care
as a
about
country,
how Israelis view it. I will admit that I don't.
And Jews at large. I think I think most Jews.
I don't think Jews at large view it. I don't think that is the.
In what position are you to even say that?
Well, I'm in the position of like
educated person.
I'm telling you,
almost
large,
entirely getting. I know. My perspective is not motivated by myself. It's motivated by Jews against anti-Zionist
no,
Jews.
Seriously, how can you speak for my entire ethnic group? I find that really interesting.
Oh, shit.
I don't speak for your entire ethnic group.
How many Jews have you polled about if they find that offensive or not?
It doesn't matter if people find it offensive.
You know a ton of Jews.
It doesn't matter if Jews find it offensive, Ethan.
Doesn't matter if a minority group finds something anti-Semitic?
Yes, of course, because we're not talking about Jews at all. We're talking about Israel. This is this is a conflation between Israel and...
No, in this case, the perception is, because that phrase has been co-opted by terrorist groups, and it's been used widely by terrorist groups, and the idea that's being communicated, although we've talked about the one-state idea today, and the way that we've discussed it definitely seems like more realistic, but people don't think about...
God, you guys are distracting me so much. Hold on. No way. Hold on.
That the process of getting inflation sustainably down to 2% has a long way to go. The labor market remains tight, although improvements in labor supply and a gradual easing in demand continue to move it into better balance. GDP growth in the third quarter was quite strong, but like most forecasters, we expect growth to moderate in coming quarters. Of course.
By refusing to treat climate change like a systemic risk
thank you.
You are putting us at
Thank you very much.
disaster.
Thank you very much.
Climate change will
Thank you. Just close the door. Close the door.
Ever actually reached the machine of ethnic cleansing that the Nazis have. Making that comparison, in my opinion, is like diminishing the impact of the Holocaust.
It's not what they've done or can do. It's about the meaning of it, you know?
Yeah, Hamas also says free Palestine. That doesn't change the meaning behind free Palestine. It doesn't mean anything. What you have to look at is what the broader Palestinians, what the Palestinian movement believes, what the Palestinian movement implies when they're saying this. And it's important. It's important because, like, what are people to do, Ethan? What is the solution?
Ethan.
We say Palestinians can't say from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. There's people claiming that even saying a ceasefire is actually against Israel's best interests, or even anti-Semitic, as a matter of fact. At a certain point, you have to realize that, like, maybe it's a little disingenuous, and that it's more so to just like squash any amount of any amount of sentiment expressed towards Israel.
At any point, should you think about maybe I should ease off this because it is offensive to the vast majority of Jews, interpret it in a not nice way, despite what people's intentions are, and that maybe it's counterproductive to double, triple, quadruple down on it?
No, because I'm not going to.
How does that help the cause of Palestinian freedom? When people go,
because I'm not going to make concessions that I don't that hold no historic weight, that I'm actually listening to the Palestinians when they say what they mean, because I don't have this like secret because I don't have this like like secondary assumption that Palestinians actually are sneakily meaning something else. Like they're like actually talking about the destruction of Jews.
Don't you think Ethan is being soy here? No, I think it's a fair point to point out for a progressive. Although Hasan is, I think, largely not really progressive anymore. I think he's kind of abandoned that for the further left stuff. I think progressives tend to be more identified by obsession with a lot of id poll topics. And I think for like MLs or for just people that consider themselves to be illiberal, like farther left than that, I don't think they really consider themselves to be progressive. Like I think Hasan would probably generally argue against a lot of the id poll shit because he's more concerned with like the material analysis or the class analysis. He doesn't give a fuck much about that. So Ethan probably doesn't see this distinction much, and I think Hasan probably dips into the progressive soy shit every now and then. So it's probably confusing for Ethan. But
you and I are in agreement on this. I've combated anti-Semitism nonstop for the past 10 years.
That there's any people that hear that and they think, you know what? That means no, we got to get rid of all the Israelis. Do you think there's anyone that believes that?
That we have to get rid of all of the Israeli Jews in that area?
From the river
of
to
course,
the sea.
I'm sure.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So,
there are anti-Semites. There are anti-Semites in the pro-Palestinian movement.
You think that it could be potentially misconstrued?
Oh, source one.
Can it be potentially misconstrued? Absolutely. Anything can be misconstrued. Any slogan can be misconstrued.
In consideration of all these things, if it can be misconstrued, if it is believed by people to mean it that way, then I don't think Jews are outside of their right to say, hey, this phraseology makes me uncomfortable. And I find it interesting that of all the minority groups, and again, people don't consider Jews a minority because they're white. I only say minority group, or most Jews are white, not all of them. But I say it because 60% of all hate crimes in the United States are against Jewish people that make up like less than 1%. So I find it interesting that when a minority group says like this phrase makes me uncomfortable, and I think the proliferation of this phrase is,
You're saying a minority group, but the problem here is this.
I don't think it's fair to just say, well, fuck you. I don't
because the conversation revolves around Palestinians, which Muslims are a minority group in general, Palestinians an even smaller minority group, against Zionists, specifically Zionists who are maintaining the violent nature of the apartheid state in Israel. So in that structure, there are significantly more Zionists in America than there are Zionist Jews, and then there are anti-Zionist Jews. Zionist and anti-Zionist Jews are marginal because of the number of Jews in general on the planet, right? The much larger conversation is being had between Palestinian activists, which feature anti-Zionist Jews and anti-Zionists alike, some of which are anti-Semitic. I'm not going to say that they're not, okay? Versus the much broader, much larger Zionist community that is comprised almost entirely of Zionist evangelicals, Zionist Christians in general.
Wait, how do I make this a new?
That's the conversation that's being had about the state of Israel.
Like automatically?
You can criticize Saudi Arabia and do it from an Islamophobic perspective, but many people are never going to turn around and say you're being Islamophobic when you criticize Saudi Arabia. But when you criticize Israel, because the foreign ministry has maintained this position and this posture for a very long time, propped up by the likes of the ADL, this conflation is the immediate counter, and I think it's cynically deployed. Is there real anti-Semitism that occurs?
Deployed.
Absolutely.
It's not cynically deployed. It's not. I mean, maybe some. I don't know. I don't think so. I think
come on,
really
Ethan. You don't think people are cynically saying something is anti-Semitic? Do you know how many people call me an anti-Semite? There's like literally groypers online who.
I think Jewish people don't like that phrase. It makes them uncomfortable. It's used by Hamas. It's used by the jihadist group, the Palestinian jihadist group. It's used by other extremist organizations. It's been co-opted. At what point, at what level of co-opting do you think it's time to phrase this out?
At what level of co-optation? I told you already. The swastika is a great example of this. The Nazis are gigantic.
So it's not racist. So it's not racist until there's like a full mass systemic genocide of Jews.
Wait, why doesn't this work sometimes?
It's not racist until there is a broad movement behind full-blown ethnic cleansing of Jewish people. Yes, even if it's like in support, there is no. In the grand scheme of things, throughout the history of Palestinian emancipation, which I will reaffirm my support for, I do believe it is just and I believe it is moral. Throughout that history, Hamas is but a mere blip. Okay. Hamas is but a mere blip, and even to this day is not has never reached broad popularity. Hamas itself is like reinstituted as charter as well. If you want to believe
this doesn't
what they're
work.
saying,
If I change the name of this note, will it change this link here?
The mantra itself predated Hamas and will continue to exist as long as there is an occupation. So having a conversation about the optics of a slogan. When 11,000 Palestinians have been ruthlessly slaughtered by that same state is ridiculous to me. I think it's
fair.
It's
this
uncharitable.
characterization is super unfair. I mean, you're making it sound like I'm a fucking like. It's got nothing. The concern for it has nothing to do with what the Israeli government is doing, the ethnic cleansing and murdering of Palestinians. It's got nothing to do with that. Invoking that is not fair. 57% of Gazans, by the way. And I'm not criticizing them. I understand why people would support Hamas during all this who are in Gaza. But you say that, I mean, they have...
Yes, in 2017, Hamas changed its charter in order to gain international recognition.
It has white support in Gaza and the West.
In 2017, Hamas changed its charter in order to maintain its civil governance factions and also gain international recognition, as had prior terror cells like the ones that you mentioned that Ben Shapiro still considers a terrorist, like Yasser Arafat, as they try to do the exact same thing. You might not believe them. Okay, I do think that there are certainly still anti-Semitic people inside of Hamas, of course, but ultimately, Palestinian people saying that they support violent emancipation.
You think there's Hamas people that are secular and cool and don't hate Jews?
Ask about the KKK.
Do I think there are Hamas militants? Absolutely, yes, 100%.
No, that's not what I asked. I said, do you think there's Hamas people that are like chill and secular and they don't hate Jews?
Oh, 100%. Well, yeah. You can.
And there were people in the KKK that probably didn't want to lynch black people, right? Say that. Oh my God.
They're fucking 18, 19-year-olds. They don't know anything except fucking bombs being blown up in their heads. That is simply a means of violent retaliation. I don't think people operate on being bad and being good. I think people operate on, holy fuck, there's a bomb blowing up in my face that killed my family. I hate this fucking state, and I'm going to join whichever faction will allow me to continue fighting against this state. Not every single person is like motivated by like cleansing every Jewish person in Israel. If that was the case, they would not have tried to make a. They would not have tried. Okay, if that was the case, they would not have tried to change their charter and become more and recenter their posturing so that they can get international recognition. Whether it was going to happen or not is one other thing.
The original one was like insane. Yeah. And who the fuck's
no,
support
I
that?
agree. I agree.
Open this link. I mean, this was just happened last week. If you'll pull this up. It's one of the
memory reports. What the is this? Oh,
it's just a clip of a Hamas.
Oh yeah, this is the Lebanese guy. Okay, so Hamas, just like every other. Just
play it.
I know. I've already played this. He's gonna say we're gonna do 1,000, 1,000,000 October 7s. Yes, I know.
Just play it. I want people to see it.
Okay, here I'll play it right now. I think my dog groomer is outside.
I'll just read it. Somebody has to read that.
Okay, yeah, it says because of constitutional security, military, and political catastrophe to the Arabs. I'm reading it. To the Arab and Islamic nation, it must be finished.
I can't hear you.
Ethan, this is not the own that you think it is. I've already covered this. I already talked about this.
I just want people to see it.
I know. I've showed this on my stream. I don't know why you think this is like an own.
Well, do you think that every single person watching right now has seen every second of your stream?
I don't know, but okay. I mean, here we'll just probably not. We'll play it again, but I'm simply stating that, like, you know, I'll read it for you if you want. It's not like a. This
I'll
is not
read
like
it if you're going outside to get your dog groomer. I can read it.
Yeah.
Okay. Right here, I'll just
shit! Never mind. The groomer's not even here.
Oh wait, I can't play it on your
God,
stream.
he's
Yeah,
such
I can
a
play it,
piece
but it
of
doesn't matter.
shit.
Here.
Hey, play it, and if you don't mind just reading the.
Yeah. The Al-Aqsa flood is just the first time, and there will be a second, a third, a fourth.
Oh, kill me, dude.
Because we have the determination, the resolve, and the capabilities to fight. We will have to pay a price, and yes, we are ready for it. We are called a nation of martyrs, and we are proud to sacrifice martyrs. We did not want to harm civilians. But there were complications on the ground, and there was a party in the area with a civilian population. It was a large area across 40 kilometers. The occupation must come to an end. Occupation where? In the Gaza Strip. No, I'm talking about all the Palestinian lands. Does that mean the annihilation of Israel? He says, yes, of course. The existence of Israel is illogical, but there's cuts in there too. I don't even know what he's saying, but it doesn't matter. He's saying a bunch of fucking psychotic, bloodthirsty shit. I agree.
This is one of the this is a guy, I've seen him before. He's a spokesman for Hamas.
Yes, there are two different, there are multiple different factions within Hamas right now. There are multiple different factions within Hamas right now.
Hold on, let me finish it. The existence of Israel is what causes all the pain, blood, and tears. It is Israel, not us.
Do you want me to talk about it? He's going to say 1 million October 7th as well. It is Israel, not us. We are the victims.
There's only like 10 seconds left.
Okay.
Therefore, nobody should blame us for the things we do.
We are the victims of the occupation, period. Therefore, nobody should blame us for the things we do. On October 7th, on October 10th, on October 1 million, everything we do is justified.
It is justified.
Yeah, he even says it in English. He says, it is justified. Okay?
Thanks.
Are you happy? Now, let's talk about it, because you brought this up as though this is like an own or something.
Hasan is so debate. He's a debate pedophile. What does he mean by an own?
Psychotic freaks exist in fucking Hamas. There is the same number of non-democratically elected motherfuckers in Israel that say the exact same shit. You and I are in agreement on that.
I'm not saying this to defend Israel. I'm saying it because I'm just telling you why people are uncomfortable with that phrase, from the river to the sea, because they interpret its use like what this guy is saying, which is that from the river to sea, say that Israel will be destroyed and there'll be no Jews left in the region. Hi, Teddy. How are you, sweetheart? You have a good day?
Debate tactics with the children. Unbelievable.
Okay.
Yeah.
For the record, from the river to the sea is in the Likud charter as well, and they do have the material. Not only do they have the support in their coalition government, but also the material realities reflect that Israel is a genocidal apartheid state. So when they say from the river to the sea,
this phrase, this
land belongs to Israel. That is a little bit more important. However, I don't even care about that sloganeering. I don't care.
What is the Likud charter containing this? Can somebody source that for me? What does that mean? Because I feel like he's probably misrepresenting that.
No, you made a statement defending this slogan, and that's the conversation.
Yes, I still defend it, and I'm still defending it.
Listen, it's got nothing to do with defending Israel or not. I'm telling you how people feel about it. Okay. So at what point does this statement become justifiably anti-Semitic?
Between the sea and the Jordan, there will only be Israeli sovereignty.
Basically,
where is
the government
he getting
has become full-blown Nazis, or I mean, whatever, Hamas or whoever has become full-blown Nazis. Only then will it be considered to be anti-Semitic, and no sooner.
No,
that's what you. Okay, no. So when? This
person's statements do not speak for Palestinians as a whole, and never has. He doesn't even fucking speak for Hamas. There are two different factions, or multiple factions in Hamas. There's the civil governance branch. No, Ethan, there are literally conflicting factions within Hamas. He is the more militant faction in Lebanon. Like, I'm not even defending these guys, but at least like this is not a defense of Hamas in any capacity. But you have to parse through this. Of course he speaks for one faction, is what I'm trying to say. So when they are even divided amongst themselves, and
Israel's not.
Then, just obviously, tell me, at what point is this phrase allowed to be offensive? When there's I
told you.
So not, you said Nazi Germany.
No, I said the level of popularity and the intentions of Palestinians have never been historically or in contemporary society to ethnically cleanse Jewish people out of Israel or ethnically cleanse Jews as a whole, right? Depending on who you talk to on the side of defending Israel or on the side of like genuine concern, expressing genuine concern over a statement like this, it ranges from
though.
It doesn't matter what Hamas's goals is when Hamas in and of itself in this very moment has never captured a broad popularity and is literally not it's not popular, it won't be popular, it will never be popular. There are Palestinian Christians living under Hamas. There are too many different opinions.
Oh, you're sick too.
How does he do the thing where like none of these people can ever speak for Hamas, but like Netanyahu speaks for the entirety of the Israeli people? Or maybe Hasan doesn't say that actually. Maybe Hasan says that Israelis are divided. I'm not sure actually. I don't know.
Do you sleep good lesson?
There's a couple factors to consider here, okay? Like, Allahu Akbar means God is great. But for the longest time in American politics, Allahu Akbar was seen as a threat, okay? Considered a threat. A valedictorian literally said one nation under Allah in her fucking speech a couple years back, and people got mad at her instead of saying one nation under God. We cannot massage our expectations in a morally righteous cause to to tailor the needs, to suit the needs of those who are ostensibly defending the maintenance of an unjust structure. I think it's ridiculous to concede on a point like this, especially as someone who takes anti-Semitism very seriously. I don't think that it's appropriate. Mark Lamont Hill was literally fired from CNN a couple years prior for saying from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free at the end of his speech at the UN. Okay? This man is a scholar. This man is a historian. He delivered a speech in front of the entirety of the United Nations, and CNN fired him. Why did they fire him?
Well, I'm assuming that you don't believe Israel has the right to exist.
I don't believe Israel has a right to exist as an apartheid state. No, I don't. I don't believe that an apartheid state can continue.
From the river to the sea essentially means the state of Israel is going bye-bye.
Yep.
The reason why I brought up the historic reference point is because in its charter in 1960, I think it was like in 1965, the PFLP that first implemented this slogan literally said they wanted the Zionist entity to be dismantled so that there is a democratic secular state for all Jews living in Israel and all Palestinian Muslim Christians alike. Hold on.
Who said that? TeddyFresh.com, guys. Black Friday sales going on right
sorry,
now.
I had to get my food. Like,
what are you
eating? Do you think that
what are you eating?
What? I just got chicken. My dad just made me chicken. Listen.
Your dad made you chicken?
Yeah. Listen. This is important.
Okay.
So a lot of Israelis, like you also personally mentioned, right, believe that a secular singular state would mean genocide. But you also have been reasonable and have come to terms with the Israeli fears being overrepresented in this conversation. And this is the exact same conversation being played out once again. When I talk about emancipatory movements, I feature the actual people that are being wronged in this process and not the considerations of those who are defending, maybe not directly oppressing those people who are asking for a just cause that are morally on the right side, but those who are defending those who are wronging them. I don't care about the considerations of people who defend Israel in that situation.
The Palestinians are the ones being wronged, which I agree with.
Yeah.
Then they can't be. Then they can use that phrase they can use phrases with impunity.
Never mind.
Israel.
He's in Corey Shuster's interviews.
I mean, if they said, kill all the Jews, then no, of course not. That's not a phrase that they can use with impunity.
What if they said Israel shouldn't exist?
Israel shouldn't exist?
Israel shouldn't exist.
It depends. It depends contextually.
Okay.
It's entirely.
It's
entirely about whether or not it is contextually appropriate. It's like the OK sign. Nazis use it. You know what I mean? But contextually speaking, if you hit the fucking OK sign, it doesn't mean you're a Nazi. If someone is talking about Israel cannot exist within the framework that it currently exists, then yes.
How many people are talking about it like that though? Like I know you are, and in like your political circles and stuff, people do talk about that. But when someone out, just in the world says Israel shouldn't exist, I don't think, I wouldn't assume their intentions are always pure.
Precisely why I said context is appropriate. Context is
right, but in most contexts, I guess.
No, I don't think in most context. I don't agree with that. It's like saying
the Battle of Karama considered part of the war of
America shouldn't exist in the way that it does. Is like when I say it, it's different. I'm an American citizen. When you and I can say it easily,
doesn't have any weight. There's no terrorist group trying to fucking kill Americans.
What? Yes, there. Wait, I don't get it. I thought Hamas was crossing the fucking southern border to come and destroy America.
Right.
Like,
well,
I know
it
you're
hasn't
not saying
happened
that,
yet.
but
I know it is crazy that people are saying that. I agree. It's absolutely fucking nuts that they think that. But anyway, I'm just telling you the Jewish perspective. That's why people don't.
No.
When they hear
First
from
of
the
all,
river
no, you're not
to the
telling me the
sea-
Jewish perspective. You're telling me.
I am.
You're telling me the
You can't say
pro-Zionist.
it's just the Jewish perspective when
I'm telling you because Jews, I know they're talking about Israel, but when Jews around the world hear someone say Israel shouldn't exist from the river to the sea, which is how it's interpreted, they see that, again, I keep bringing this up, they see it as a genocide.
Okay.
Can
I ask you a question?
I'm just telling you that's what it is.
The perspective of like, like I said, it's not every single Jew or like the Jewish perspective. Jews are not a monolith. I think that it's ridiculous to make this assertion when, like, again, Jews, anti-Zionist Jews, are at the forefront of criticizing Israel and have been using this term in perpetuity, and therefore comparing them to capos is, like, I think very inappropriate.
Dude, no. My point in comparing them is to say you can find support on any movement by anybody. It's just
but that's not a
it's
broadly.
not
But that's
to
not
say,
like a.
Hey, it doesn't.
That's not a tiny, minuscule percentage of the Jewish population. That's a very important percentage of Jewish scholars. It's a very important percentage of Israeli scholars. It's an important percentage of Jewish people in general.
You're saying that that there's a large portion of Jewish people around the world that say from the river to the sea.
Not a large portion
What
of Jewish
percentage?
people around the
Asking
world.
for the percentage.
But I don't
How many
concern
are we
myself.
talking?
Yes,
I
asking
don't
for the
concern
percentage.
myself with
Push
what
'em.
Jewish people think about a particular slogan when I'm talking about a particular slogan that is supposed to be, when I'm giving you the historical context of where the slogan comes from, not necessarily like how Jewish people perceive it, especially when Jewish people on either side of this equation are a tiny sliver of the conversation. Anti-Zionist Jews do not make up the broader movement, just like Zionist Jews do not make up the broader movement of defending Israel. It's literally we're living on a planet where
invoking that there's Jewish people that agree with you is I'm just saying I don't think it's a good argument. That's all.
No, I'm simply, the reason why I mentioned that is
Sure, you
because
can find
if you consider it to be an eradication
that are like in favor of the occupation too.
No, the reason why I brought that, Ethan, and the reason why I think it's a disingenuous framing to compare it to the Confederate flag or to say that Jewish people agreed with like Hitler or whatever, is because a lot of these Jews who are anti-Zionist. You probably respect a lot of these Jews who are anti-Zionist. Do you think that they would actually fucking defend a phrase that unironically is pushing for their ethnic cleansing? Do you think that is the case? I ask you in all sincerity.
About a real measurable group of people. You're just using Jewish people as a token.
Yeah, what percentage of Jewish people think that? He should ask them what percentage. Yes, what percentage?
About 100, 200?
Yeah.
I mean, what are we talking about?
I'm talking about the tens of thousands of
what
Jews
percentage?
that have been demonstrating.
Tens of thousands is a small number. Wait, what percentage?
You've
Asking
asked
for a percentage.
You've asked them how they feel about from the river to the sea. You've polled them on that.
There are literally. There's enough. There's so much written articles on this exact same thing, this sloganeering and what it actually means. Yes, they're the ones who are screaming it. They are the ones who are screaming it. Yes.
Really? Show me all the Jews screaming from the river to the sea. I'd like to see a fucking video of that.
No, don't ask for a
would
video.
Be quite surprising. Find me one video of a Jewish
of course,
person
you're going to be able to find a video
from the river to the sea.
Okay.
Ethan fucked up.
Go ahead.
Ethan fucked up. You're going to be able to find one video. You obviously are going to be able to find
I can
one video.
definitely find you a group of Palestinians or Arabs that are like, no, we should definitely occupy Gaza. And we think that Israel's totally right.
What difference does that make?
Because I can use them as a token too. It doesn't mean that
what? That doesn't even make sense. That doesn't even.
Just DM Ethan. No, I'm not trying to like play.
Why?
Like,
find me a video of a. You know what I mean? Let's see. I want to see all these.
Here, this is from Jewish Voice for Peace Action. Here, I'll send this to you as well. The full phrase is from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. If you believe that freedom for Palestinians means eradicating Jews, it says more about you than.
Let me see it before you. Let me see what
this is. Do you think these guys are capos?
It's really okay.
Do you think these guys are capos? They're criticizing Representative Debbie Wasserman Schultz.
So let's see.
Stop trying to.
This group, Jewish Voices for Peace Action. What do you know about this group?
What do you mean? What do I know about this group? This is one of the forefront. This is one of the leading advocacy movements of anti-Zionist Jews in this country. Alongside Jewish Voice for Peace, you also have Jews for Economic and Racial Freedom.
But don't you see how fucked up it is to be like, this group of people say it's not offensive, therefore the rest of you shouldn't care about it?
No, you asked. You said, show me a Jew.
Yeah, fuck.
And I didn't
fucked up on this.
No, show me a Jew screaming from the river to the sea. You showed me a tweet. I mean, on Twitter, people brigade any fucking thing. Like, this has 36,000 likes.
These guys are at the forefront. These guys are at the forefront of anti-Zionist.
Of course, there's groups.
Anti-Zionist protest.
Of course, there's groups, dude.
Ethan, you asked me, and I gave you an answer, and now you don't like the answer, and now you're saying
the majority of people retweeting that are Jewish.
That doesn't change anything. You asked me to.
Doesn't it change anything?
You asked me for a particular. You asked me to literally. First of all, there's Jews in my chat right now.
Video. I said, show me a video, not
there are
a tweet.
Jews in my chat right now that say it all the time. Not that you care, because like clearly, when I show you not just
bad
a
faith
single
accusation.
Jew,
Bad
like
faith accusation. Number one.
You need to rely on that argument.
Literally an entire movement.
I don't understand why you rely on that argument. It's silly.
You asked me. The reason why I'm mentioning is because do you think these are bad people? Do you think these are?
You brought it up.
Do you think these are anti-Semitic? Do you think that these are anti-Semitic Jews? Like the people that are protesting.
You said there's tons of Jews that are saying this.
Yes, of course.
Show me one video of a Jewish person saying it.
Wait, did Noam Chomsky ever live in Israel, or? Because it's kind of funny that it was like a group founded by Chomsky.
You said you'd find me a video.
I'm gonna literally call up Noah Colwyn to have him say it.
I don't care what one person says about it.
Ethan.
I'm talking. You know what I mean?
Here. But you said show me a Jew. I'm showing you
a video of a Jew screaming from the river to the sea.
Okay, I'm gonna call up Noah right now.
I don't want to talk to Noah. I don't give a fuck about who that is. I don't know anything about him.
What do you mean? I'm gonna call him so he can fucking scream it.
Oh no.
He can scream it at you.
Okay, so
not the Orthodox.
You know one guy who will scream it. Therefore, dude, this argument you're making is ridiculous.
What do you mean the argument is ridiculous?
That's like saying if I can find a Palestinian to say the occupation is justified, then saying the occupation is justified isn't anti-Palestinian.
No, because the morality behind what he's saying is incorrect. The morality behind what from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free is correct. That's the major difference.
That's not how the Jews see it. They see it as.
But now we're having we're having two separate conversations. We're having two separate conversations. If you and I are both in agreement of Palestinian emancipation, which you say you are, and I believe you, then why would, if you believe in Palestinian emancipation and you don't believe in a permanent occupation over Gaza, who gives a fuck if you can find a Palestinian that says, no, eviscerating Gaza is correct? Like, the conversation is not on the boundaries of, Jewish people versus Palestinians. The conversation is on Zionism versus anti-Zionism.
The Jewish people do not interpret that as a morally just statement. I mean, obviously, that is completely subjective.
Well, the reason why I mentioned that you're wrong in this, I'm sure there are a lot of Jewish people that don't interpret it as morally just. They think that it means ethnic cleansing.
You don't care about anyone else. But what you're supposed
to do in that situation is not to immediately go, all right, well, Jewish people don't think this is appropriate, so
I'm gonna
so
go
it's
find
not allowed.
People. I'm gonna go find a group of black people say the Confederate flag isn't racist. I'm gonna go find.
Ethan, please stop. No, don't do that. Don't do that.
You're,
don't
no,
do that.
you're being ridiculous. This
no,
point is
Ethan,
fucking
you're making a
absurd,
conflation that
However
makes you look
many
horrible.
Jews you
Why don't you
to
see
agree with
this?
you means fucking
no.
nothing.
Ethan, you're making a conflation that literally makes you look so bad. Please stop doing that. Please.
Doing what? Doing what?
Stop
Disagreeing with
bringing
me.
up slogans of an oppressive party in comparison to slogans that come from the oppressed side. It is a false conflation.
All I'm telling you is why people find it offensive. You don't want to hear it, and that's fine. Or you disagree. I'm telling you why people find it offensive. They see it as a call for the destruction of Israel. That's how they view it.
I hope you can understand what I'm trying to say, because like
Israelis is basically they see things through the lens of everybody wants to kill us.
Do you think
so
a black white supremacist that defends the Confederacy is akin to a Jewish person that is defending Palestinian emancipation and saying this slogan?
You can find anybody to agree with any fucking point. That the existence of somebody agreeing with a point is not proof of any fucking thing. And the suggestion that
there are a ton of white people who think Black Lives Matter means fuck all whites and only Black Lives Matter. That doesn't change the reality behind the slogan, and that doesn't change the morality behind the activism. And the same goes for Palestinian emancipation. Just because people who are in defense of Israel, okay, people who are defending Israel and its continuation of an apartheid regime because the opposite makes them feel like it's going to be genocidal, doesn't change the reality of the slogan behind it and doesn't change the morality behind the actions. I am in support of Palestinians. I'm in support of all people living freely. I'm in support of permanent security.
Stop putting these fucking words in my mouth like I don't. The way you've set that up is fucked up, and that's why people get so angry.
No, I'm not putting words in your mouth, but you're putting words in your mouth.
I'm explaining to you why people find it offensive. That's it. I'm not. You know what I mean? I'm telling you how people interpret that, and like when people double down on it and they use it and people, it's offensive to the vast majority of Jews. I'm telling you, despite how many you know that you could fit into a room that agree with you.
This is going to literally, like, I'm telling you, I don't know why you won't listen to me. I'm trying to, as your friend, I'm
oh my God, dude, the condescension,
urging you to reconsider your position. Because if you are,
I'm literally just explaining why people find it offensive. What is my position exactly that is a problem? What's my position that's a problem?
Your position comes along with the false conflation that this slogan is harmful to Jewish people. A slogan that is otherwise not harmful to Jewish people can be used in an anti-Semitic fashion. A slogan
Jewish people believe it is harmful to them.
But that doesn't change the reality of the slogan or the fact that there are plenty of Jewish people who are in support of Palestinian emancipation who use it. It's a slogan at the end of the day for a morally righteous cause. Just because. But
there's also fucking terrorists that want to kill a bunch of Jews also amongst that cause, despite it not being a lot. That's how fucking Jewish people and Israelis interpret it. I'm just telling you, dude.
Okay,
whether you agree or not, I'm just explaining it.
Ethan, I know you're just explaining it, except
you don't know. You don't understand, Ethan.
Okay.
You're not gonna convince Jewish people that.
It doesn't matter. I don't care about convincing Jewish people. But first of all, I care about convincing whoever will actually listen and try to understand.
Preaching to my audience. I like that he was honest there. That was interesting.
What I'm trying to say. But ultimately, yes, I am not going to move on this position because people are uncomfortable by this slogan, considering what the slogan actually is. There's no reason to concede. There are certain things that I find completely unacceptable.
There are reasons. I mean,
you
you said,
if you wrote
Hamas
from the river to the sea,
terrorist groups use it, and so like there are reasons. Whether you agree with them or not you're justified
Hamas
to
says
disagree.
free Palestine as well. Does that mean free Palestine means eradication of Jews? It's in their charter too.
No, it doesn't mean that.
Okay, what's the difference then?
I mean, obviously the context matters, right? Some people mean it that way.
That's what I said. That's what I said from the start.
November's the 11th month, right? We're in the 11th month.
But so free Palestine in it doesn't suggest the destruction of Israel. which is how, again, people interpret
No,
it.
that's not true. Plenty of Jews, plenty of Zionist Jews that I've seen think Free Palestine means the destruction of Jews.
Okay.
Not just Israel, the entirety of the international Jewish population.
I don't think that, because from the river to the sea, in the saying itself.
Oh shit! It's 9/11 today. Wait, what the fuck?
People
No, it's not. No, it's not 9/11. Fuck! I just mind fucked myself.
Israel.
Shut the fuck
That's
up.
how people see it.
Okay, when you want to understand what Black Lives Matter means, do you go to white people to ask them?
It's 9/11 for Europe today, right?
And ask them what it means. Who do you listen to?
Say what?
When you want to understand the purpose behind a slogan, do you go and ask what white people think about Black Lives Matter, or do you ask black people what they mean when they say Black Lives Matter?
I would.
When you want to understand the
Just
meaning
tell me your
behind the
point. Just
slogan
tell me
Black
your
Lives
point.
Matter, do you ask white people what they think it means, or do you ask black people what they think it means?
I guess I would probably just ask anyone involved in that movement. I don't know.
Okay, that's great. Are there black people in the Black Lives Matter movement that like legitimately hate white people and like maybe want to even kill them? I'm sure there are. There's one. You can find one of everything. Okay, like I'm sure.
Does what you're doing essentially with your
does that
using
change
Jews as tokens?
Does that change? No, listen to my words. Does that change the broader movement and the morality behind Black Lives Matter, or does that change what people mean when they say Black Lives Matter?
Black Lives Matter doesn't. Again, it's what's in the phrase, dude. Saying the thing is like saying Black Lives Matter doesn't insinuate that other lives don't matter. It's in the fucking phrase, bro. I don't know what to tell you. From the river to the sea,
Palestine will be free. Also doesn't feature from the river to the sea. We should destroy Israel. And
what does from the river to the sea mean? It's talking about the original territory.
The secondary implication behind it.
Like,
I'm just telling you how people see it, bro.
I know, but if you were to tell me this is how white people feel about Black Lives Matter, I would say I don't care.
Black people don't have a history of trying to kill all the white people in the United States. Oh, Jesus Christ.
Explaining what this...
There's no inherent... Bro, there's nothing in Black Lives Matter that's saying that white lives don't matter.
There's nothing in from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free that implies Jewish people must be eradicated or Israel must be destroyed and Jewish people in it must be killed.
A lot of people disagree because you're talking about from the river to the sea.
Yes, a lot of people who are not Palestinian and a lot of people who are not anti-Zionist disagree.
We got
Anti-Zionists, on the other hand, don't agree. And they are the ones who are using the slogan. So why would I'm asking you, if I'm not going to ask a white person who is against Black Lives Matter, why would what they feel about this slogan? Why would I go to, in the broadest majority, Zionists, both Jewish and Christian? Why would I ask them what they think about a Zionist, anti-Zionist slogan?
I already explained it, but you don't want to hear me.
Ooh.
What? No, I'm asking you. Like,
it's not in the fucking slogan itself says. People interpret it as destruction of Israel. I know it doesn't say let's destroy Israel,
but it's not.
But that's from the river to the sea is mainland Israel.
Okay, Ethan.
That's it, man. That's how people see it.
No, you can't simply say that's how people see it and
it is though.
There. But it doesn't matter how Zionists see it. What matters is how anti-Zionists speak it. Anti-Zionists of all backgrounds, just like Zionists of all backgrounds, will sometimes cynically and other times because they're misguided think that this spells the genocide of Jews. It does not.
Can you do you care that your chat is calling me racist? Do you make any attempt to modify?
I have not looked at my chat.
I have no responsibility. I can't do anything about that.
I just opened it, but don't you have moderators? Do you care at all about what your audience says about me?
32,000 people in here right now. The reason why people are saying that is because of the conflations that you made, Ethan. That's why, I can't stop people from viewing you a certain way if you're gonna make these comparisons that they've heard from actually racist people. You literally implied that Jewish.
Notice how, oh my God, that was such a cute turnaround. Notice how Hasan's saying, because you've made arguments that racist people have made, you're allowed to be called racist. But for Hasan, the river from the sea thing has to be completely divorced from the genocidal Arabs or Palestinians or other people around the world. That has to be completely divorced. That was such a cute, quick turnaround right there. That was nice.
Comparison that this slogan is akin to the swastika changed over the course of its trajectory as a symbol for Nazi Germany, and then also on top of that stated that the Confederate flag means something different to the Southern folk that want to promote heritage, not hate. Those people, when they say that, are cynically saying heritage, not hate. It doesn't mean slavery to me. Those people are in the wrong. These people that are saying from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free, are not in the wrong. They're in the right. That's the major difference. They are morally righteous, and their slogan in and of itself is on the exact opposite side of what the Confederacy implies. That's why a better comparison would still be to make a comparison to Black Lives Matter in the way that some white people foresee or perceive Black Lives Matter. And if I'm not going to listen to what white people who are against Black Lives Matter have to say about the slogan itself, then why would I listen to people who are defending Israel on what this slogan means? Because the broadest majority of people who consider this to be an anti-Semitic slogan are, in my opinion, deploying it cynically. Not you.
By the way, I'm not even defending I'm not even like, I'm just trying to tell you guys how it feels. And I'm fucking shocked that you don't care that people in your chat are saying, who the fuck is this child, cold, arrogant, kind as fuck.
I love you, but there's only so much I can do.
How can you be surprised when your Discord is literally full of fucking
Ethan, I love you, but there's only so much I can do if you're making that argument. You know that, right? Like, at a certain point, you're an adult, and the words that you're saying are going to be perceived by people in a certain way. I can't constantly tell my community to shut the fuck up, which I have, and I think they should. But at the end of the day, it's because I know you personally, and I think your heart is in the right place. But they don't know, so it's hard. It's hard for people to view what you're saying beyond your words.
I'm just telling you the perspective. You disagree. That's it. I mean, what the fuck do you want from me?
Okay, but do you get where I'm coming from? Like, that's why I'm trying to.
I understand your analysis, dude.
Okay.
I understand your analysis.
I don't want my community to hurt your feelings. I don't want your feelings to be hurt either.
They're not hurting my feelings. They're monsters. They're like psychotic.
Oh no.
I think you're a good person.
Not all of them, but there are a lot of them, and you don't seem to care about moderating it at all.
That's not true.
Whereas when you're on my show, we really do care about what people say about you on Discord and chat, and we moderate it to keep like a good environment. But you don't seem to fucking care about
it. There's no way I can shut off my chat. I mean, I can put it in emote mode, but that's it.
Do you not have
you shut off your
moderators?
chat. Just like you shut off your chat when these sorts of conversations happen in an effort to stop bad faith pieces of shit, we can put it in emote mode, which is what I'm doing now. But ultimately, you have to realize, like, when there's 33,000 people, and it's not even YouTube, it's literally fucking Twitch, so that it's even faster. It's almost impossible to moderate because people are going to perceive what you're saying in a certain way. This is not like, there's only so much moderation I can do if you make that comparison.
Do you have moderators in your chat? I don't understand. I didn't make any fucking comparison, dude. I'm literally just explaining how people feel about it. That's all I'm doing, man. And you continue to put words in my mouth, making it seem like I'm comparing them to Jewish Nazis and shit.
Hold on.
It's so fucked up. It's not fair. And when you say that shit, then people in your chat are obviously going to co-sign it. And they're going to fucking, think that, as I quoted, Hasan is a freak pig. I mean, I don't know.
Damn.
For the record, I understand the analysis, right? That it's not anti-Israel or anti-Semitic.
Wow, Lawson Harrison, thanks for the $20.
And I agree with his analysis, actually. I do.
Is Chad spamming baby rage?
I'm explaining why Jewish people around the world find it offensive. And I can tell you guys, most Jews do find it offensive because the way they interpret it, which is the destruction of Israel. That's how they interpret it, whether it's meant that way or not.
Yeah.
But it's worth, acknowledging that that's how people feel about it. Keep using it by all means.
Sorry, I was gone.
I'm talking to the audience.
Can you hear me? Okay.
I'm telling the audience because I don't think I can.
You know what?
You just stop being racist. You're a racist dipshit. He's a racist. They're calling me racist. Wah, fuck this racist. You're a racist. He's racist. He's racist.
I'm simply explaining why people interpret it to be anti-Semitic or anti-Israel because of the insinuation that it is from the river to sea. They interpret it as it being a call for the destruction of Israel. If you now you can use that phrase, and I agree with your analysis, Hasan, that you know what I mean, that people can use that phrase. It's okay. You know what I mean? I'm just explaining the perspective. If you care to you know, respond to it or not.
No, I get the perspective.
If you want to keep using the phrase,
it's also so funny how like irresponsible he feels, or not, or lack of responsibility he feels for like audience. Like, oh, I can't control them. I don't know why they think that. I don't know why they do that. Well, no shit, they do that. It's because you're on stream every single day screeching that all of these people are racist, screeching that all of these people are pro-apartheid, pro-genocide. The chat isn't a mistake. It's not like this happens on accident, right?
If you see my explanation of this, and if you hear Palestinians explain this term and this slogan and what it means to them and the history of the slogan, right? And instead of going, oh, wow, I didn't think about that. Actually, maybe I'm in the wrong here. I would rather listen to those who are anti-Zionist, Palestinians, and also American Jews and Western Jews who are anti-Zionist.
It's also the annoying thing, too, is that like Hasan is doing the propaganda thing. I don't think Ethan is actually. Like, it is true that there are multiple perspectives you can have on this, right? Like, there is a valid and legitimate perspective that Palestinians, both past and present, can have in terms of feeling like they've been wronged out of their land, that the IDF commits violence against them, that settlers, with the sanction of the Israeli state, commits violence. Like, that's true. All of that is true. And I think Ethan would acknowledge all of that. But there's zero, when you engage in propaganda, there's zero humanization or acknowledgement that the other side might have a point too, right? So like in Hasan's world, Hasan would acknowledge all of Ethan's things about like, well, these are why Palestinians, you know, probably don't like Israel very much, probably don't feel good about the living conditions. But Hasan cannot acknowledge any legitimate Israeli arguments whatsoever. All of them are fake. All of them are bullshit. All of it is propaganda. All of it are lies. Like, yeah. So it's just like the one-sidedness of it is so cucked. And it's so dishonest too. And it's very inhuman, right? Because Ethan is like trying to have kind of, I think, like a human interaction, but Hasan is just stuck in like, this is propaganda mode. Like, I'm in full-on propaganda force and I can't literally do any other type of conversation.
To them. It would make them uncomfortable.
Yes, just like Black Lives Matter can be an uncomfortable phrase for people, but it doesn't change my mentality around the phrase. And if someone asks me,
okay, whatever, bro. I don't know.
What do you mean, whatever? That's not whatever. That's very important.
We're just talking in circles. We've already talked about this shit.
I know, but it's important because I don't want you to think that, like, I don't want you to think that I'm like cynically or in a weird way, just like being like, no, anti-Semitism is like totally fine actually with this one phrase.
But what I just, you won't make any concessions, and it's crazy. Like,
not a
I make so
one.
many concessions to you all the time from my heart, and I live.
Oh my god, my fucking shit just crashed. I don't know why, and I don't know how. Oh, cool. He was just getting to, that was a good point.
There she is.
Oh, we can watch some ads before we get to it. But what Ethan was about to say was correct, that Hasan won't make any concessions ever. And it's only, he's just reiterating what I just said.
I fucking try to move towards your side every time we talk, and I do. But when I fucking try to explain to you, and you even sit here and you understand that, you know, so why Jewish people around the world might find that phrase scary to them, you won't fucking even admit. Well, now you did that I asked you, but you think it's fucking silly. You don't want to hear anything I have to say, and you don't want to concede a single fucking point.
Yeah, we've got the now that I'm plugged into the Mossad intel, we've got the brain link
to talk to you about it when it's like that.
Okay, I think the reason why it comes across as one-sided, even though it's not one-sided either, is because we're broadly in agreement. But I agree. But
we're broadly in agreement.
The potential fears that this might invoke in people who are otherwise misguided and propagandized against this phrase by those who have a cynical reason to tie this to Judaism in general is the reason why I try to educate people on the matter. Is the reason why when you and I are in disagreement, I want to explain it to you in all sincerity. I do not discount the fact that
I love how everything is so condescending.
Otherwise,
I'm educating you, I'm explaining it to you.
And even, I guess, anti-Zionist or maybe critical, Jewish people who are critical of Israel, let's say, might hear this and think, oh, this seems anti-Semitic to me because I've been told it's anti-Semitic. But I think making a concession on this and saying, you know what, you're right. Some people are afraid of the slogan, so that must mean it's anti-Semitic, is incorrect when it's not reflective of its history.
Understand why a large amount of Jews think that
Ethan's wasting his time. This conversation is drawn down to its end, I think.
I know, but just like with the one-state
That's
solution
it.
conversation,
Like I'm just asking. I'm just trying to like connect a fucking bridge at all between
I do understand it.
You can use that phrase. I'm not even disagreeing. But like if we're trying to actually like make bridges and fucking understand each other, you not being able to even concede why Jews around the world could interpret that way seems, like it's not productive at all. Like you don't want to fucking see it from anyone's perspective.
But I do understand it, which is why I try to work against this counter narrative, this counterfactual. That's what I'm saying. I try to use the privilege that I have, the platform that I have, to deliver a voice for a group of people that are never that are never really heard at all.
I think peace and progress happens when we connect and have empathy for each other. That's it. I'm explaining to you why Jews around the world might find that offensive, and and that's it. I think that it would be good to try to understand that. But
the question I have is this.
But I don't care to keep talking about it because we just keep talking in circles.
Okay, well, here I'll tackle it from a different angle.
All right, I gotta go soon anyway. My throat is fucking killing me.
Okay, well, I'm sorry that we couldn't make peace on this one issue.
Yeah,
and I hope that
it's just I just find it really fucked up how people are going to interpret this now, and I think based on some of your analysis, as me like comparing fucking Palestinian activists to like Jewish Nazis or something.
Yep, rip bozo.
And like I'm not even fucking saying don't use the phrase. I'm simply trying to explain the perspective. And like if you don't want to hear the perspective, if you don't want to empathize at all with people that find it offensive, then conversing is kind of pointless.
I don't
like I feel like I'm just explaining it, man. And I'm not a fucking radical Jew. I'm not even a religious Jew.
No,
I have no stake in the game.
Uh-oh.
And this is coming from.
Oh no.
I know.
Oh no, is Hasan gonna cry too? Oh no, is Hasan gonna cry too? Do it. Oh my god, please. Hasan, you got it. You can't let him outcry you, dude. Oh, come on, Hasan. You can do it. He's mustering. He's like bringing up the images right now of like the collapse of the Soviet Union, dissolution of the Warsaw Pact, South Korea wins the war.
All right.
Oh, he's not gonna do it.
I don't know why I get so fucking emotional lately.
You all right? We don't have to continue if you don't want to. If you don't feel like it.
I love that. Wait. Oh, did I miss something? Was he doing it? I love that Hasan accuses me of like being a debater or whatever. When Hasan was like, he's actually a really good, not like factually, but like optically controlling convos, and he loves it, especially against people like Ethan.
Because I feel like that would be. I feel as though that would be more productive. Even Israeli voices, as a matter of fact,
productive,
and we can still do that at a later date if you'd like.
I just, I'm not like a fucking I'm not a sensitive Jew. I never scream anti-Semitism about anything.
No, I know.
So like, you can't. I don't even think it's fair to characterize. Like, I'm just telling you how people see it.
I
mean, that's all
Ethan,
I'm doing.
I know. I never said that.
You disagree. Clearly, that's it, and that's fine.
I've never said any of those things against you, and I don't believe that. Okay.
Wait, never said any of what against him?
I'm not saying that at all. I'm simply trying to describe the position of Palestinians in this matter.
No, that's not all you're doing. You're also discrediting the position of all Israeli citizens.
Right? I understand. I understand. I've listened to you. I agree. That's it.
Okay.
He's looking for like a shred of human empathy from Hasan, but Hasan has none. He doesn't exist as like a human being. He's only like a clout machine propagandist. It's like so agonizing to watch these two.
I think that's That's the reason why it'd be better served to have this conversation not with myself, but with an anti-Zionist Jewish person.
Why does it matter if they're Jewish?
Because I'm not Jewish, and you've said in this conversation that, like, how can you tell me how to feel about the situation?
No, he said, how can you speak for all Jewish people? That's what he said. Oh my God, Hasan twisting it so insanely there. Hasan's issue was, or Ethan's issue was like, how can you say to speak for all Jews? How can you speak for my whole ethnicity? And then Hasan's like, oh, well, maybe you need to speak to another Jew then.
Give you additional feedback and additional information.
Here, I'm just gonna. This person said, "Okay, we don't give a fuck if they interpret it like that, because they're fucking brain."
Bro, and then Ethan's subreddit. Hasan is a great friend, to be honest. I could never. Hasan is a Chad. Ethan should take a long break. God, what a fucking man-child. I can't watch this shit anymore. Perpetual victim mentality. So disgusting. Crocodile tears. Hope AB and Lena aren't getting this type of wrath from Ethan at work, because holy shit, he's saying some pretty anti-Arab and Islamophobic things. This isn't even the anti-fan subreddit. This is the main subreddit right now. With people like Frogan in Hasan's Discord, like, leading the charge.
Comment left by your mod.
Comment left by the mod. Oh, shit.
Which mod said that?
I don't care. It doesn't matter. I'm just saying.
Well, I mean, why'd you bring it up?
No, I'm not trying to snitch. Okay.
But ultimately, you have to understand that the reason why people feel this way is because this is not like this community, these very same moderators, this entire moderation team has been tackling anti-Semitism for 4 or 5 years at this point.
Like,
they're not anti-Semitic. They're not saying this because
another
they're
mod says Ethan is so bad faith. What have I been bad faith about? Like, I genuinely.
Dude, message him. Okay, for the final time. Okay. I'm observing this. My goal is not to like do any weird snaky shit or drive a wedge between anybody. That's not my goal. That's not my mission. That's not what I'm trying to do for anything. Why are you looking at my coats? Trying to steal shit.
I'm rifling through them.
Sorry, is there some shit you're looking for there? Trying to, yeah?
I'm trying to find your wallet.
Okay, well.
At a certain point.
What have I said that's bad faith?
I think you want me to be totally honest.
Yeah. What a question.
No kitty gloves. Okay.
Uh-oh. Now he's gonna be
bro. No. That insinuation is so stupid.
Yeah.
No,
what? Yeah.
Please don't get mad at me. I'm
Am I
gonna be
fucking moron? You just talk down to me the whole time?
No, absolutely not. I think you're a very smart person, but you do get a little emotional on this issue.
Oh my God.
Okay.
Called him emotional.
What you said
oh no.
About from the river to the sea being akin to a Nazi slogan, or the fact that like it's a Confederate flag. Those comparisons. Because I know you personally, and because I know you're an empathetic person, because I don't think you're a bad faith person at all, but anyone else that says something like that, it's going to come across, especially from the people that don't know who you are and what you represent, it's going to come across like you are making a bad faith argument that...
Bro, you want bad faith? I'm sorry. I started doing this. This is like the funnest thing in the world. It's kind of mean, okay? Anytime I see some dipshit, and it's worked every single time I've done it so far. Not to say that it will always work, but anytime I see some dipshit with a Palestinian flag shitting on me on Twitter, I always click their Twitter, and I go back to October 7th and 8th, and I see what they tweeted, and it is always some unhinged shit. I think I did it to a guy this morning. It is always some unhinged shit.
And
how is that bad faith? You're saying people take it out of context. That's not the same thing as being bad faith.
Well, I don't think it's being taken out of context because you're saying this in defense of bastardizing the perspective of Palestinians or minimizing the voice of Palestinians, Muslims, and anti-Zionist Jews, and the rest of the anti-Zionist movement by trying to say, no, this is what it actually means. This is how it's being perceived by the other side. What it actually is perceived by the other side, the broader Zionist movement as a whole, does not change the reality of what this message means. It simply is used as another reason to silence any kind of emancipatory slogan and any kind of opposition. People feel like they can't say anything. People feel like they can't. People can't push for a ceasefire. The government's not listening to them. People can't even say free Palestine from the river to the sea because like then this is technically considered anti-Semitic. Like what should happen?
Technically considered anti-Semitic.
Is there a boundary and a guideline that maybe like the ADL could put forward that people can write?
He's not looking for anything. Hasan's not going to give him anything here.
I'm just giving you my perspective.
It's not. Ethan just keeps saying that. He doesn't realize Hasan is never giving him anything here. Hasan does not view him as like an equal or a friend. He's literally just a clout stepping stone. Like that's it. Like full stop.
That's it.
It doesn't matter. Hasan's like Ethan's looking for one thing. Hasan's not giving him anything. He's not going to give him anything.
If you were to ask anti-Zionist Jews how they interpret the slogan versus Zionist Jews, the difference would be stark.
You're saying because of this group doesn't find it offensive that the other... I'm not saying they're right. You're saying this group of people finds it offensive, therefore they're wrong? I mean, I'm just telling you how they feel. I mean, it's just feelings.
Because it is an anti-Zionist slogan. That's why I think like listening to anti-Zionists in this front was more important.
And again, this is the way people hear it. At a certain point...
Also, what you're saying...
Genociding all the Jews there does become anti-Semitic. And I'm not saying that's what anybody there wants to do.
Of course, genociding all the Jews is anti-Semitic. That's insane.
That's how people perceive it, especially people in Israel.
No, but people also perceive
Black Lives Matter
Palestine to be the same. You yourself admitted that people in... Okay, you don't. But
I don't think it's the same. People don't perceive it.
You literally said a one-state solution is untenable, regardless of the morality of it, because people in Israel consider that to be akin to a possible genocide. You openly stated that paranoia is not a justifiable one, and yet people still feel it in their hearts. You cannot set the boundaries on an emancipatory movement by the unreasonable fears that people have about that slogan.
Unreasonable?
Or any slogan whatsoever, because ultimately it turns into, unless it's like directly violent and it's an incitement of violence, in which case, of course, unacceptable. Because at a certain point, this becomes an optics conversation that is used as a cudgel to like just fucking forcibly squash any kind of opposition. And that's already happening. In America, it's not happening. We still have some semblance of free speech. But in Europe, in different parts of the world, people are literally fucking getting apprehended. They're getting detained for saying from the river to the sea.
Wait, what? Is this happening? Is somebody link me somewhere?
Having this back and forth in good faith and having a conversation about it is fine. But that doesn't even change the reality or even break through the dam.
That's all they're saying? Or is it parts of like protests or riots or something? Where somebody just says that and they get arrested?
Occupation that want to end the
Show me the DGG links.
That has currently in this iteration, in this last iteration, in the siege, has killed almost 11,000 people with 4,000 children.
Bro, don't bring that up as some fucking talking point against me. Because again,
I know you don't agree with that.
I
know you don't agree with that. I know you don't agree with that. I know. I'm not saying you do at all. I know you don't agree with that, and that's precisely why I'm saying just listen to the Palestinians in this front.
Okay, I'm listening to the Palestinians.
And anti-Zionist Jews.
And anti-Zionist Jews.
Anyway, I'm sorry. I don't want to fight. I think this is like, I mean, it sucks, and I'm sorry that I made you feel a certain way. I'm sorry that my community made you feel a certain way. No, it's fucked up. I don't want you to. I think you're a good person. Just understand that people don't know the empathy that you have, and they simply see, similar talking points that they've heard from others that don't demonstrate that same empathy that you do when you're delivering their perspective here. That makes sense?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just trying to have a conversation about it. I'm just trying to be honest and open and
I agree. I respect it, which is why I wanted to have this conversation to begin with. I hope you don't think that I'm harboring resentment or trying to get my fucking community to hate you. I'm working in the exact opposite direction.
Well, I don't think your mods have a very vested interest in aligning their goals with yours.
I'll talk to them about it as well. But ultimately, there's a reason, and that is because they've heard this sentiment expressed by others, and they don't know you.
Here's another mod. C-Max says, you're just showing you're a Zionist, Ethan. There's another one saying, shrug dog, I don't care about your feelings. Which is fair. Yeah, I'm not taking it back, says Fish.
Nice. All right, I think this is mainly done now. I don't know why he's reading the comments. It sounds like I'm not gonna ban any of these people.